Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
Welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through from me. It's just gonna solidify everything for Mythos.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes the Natalie immediately comes back. Like fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
Hello and welcome back, folks, to Season 14 of CGL, here with the SNO EU desk. We are quarter of the way through this very season. The battleground is set. We've seen plenty of teams face off on Saturday Night Overwatch and throughout the weeks as well on both regions. My name is Jill, I'll be hosting for you today again, joined by 2 Tryhard Ray, Spectrion.
What's good?
And Jeff.
Hello.
So yes, we've seen a good few weeks now of SNO, a good few weeks of this season of CGL, but let's cast our mind back to last week on EU, where we saw quite the one-sided affair. Spectrum, what's your reflection on what we saw last week?
You're going to get one-sided games, and, we're going to get those out the way. We're going to have their own broadcast sometimes. It's a little bit peak. Hopefully it doesn't continue throughout, and, with the mid-season tournament now coming up, then at least when we get towards the upper echelons of that, we'll definitely have some closer games, and just praying that our matchup today is a smidge better as well.
Yes, praying to the 3-2 gods that we get something a little bit more competitive here on EU. Ray, what are your thoughts on last week and all that we've seen so far of this season?
I do think I've been kind of, putting this out there from the beginning of the season where early it's going to look a little rough. We have a lot of mainstay CGL teams, especially in these leagues, that come every year with almost the same team. If not, they made a couple of changes, but they've been playing together for so long, going up against a lot of new teams who are bringing a lot of people together. They have a lot of kinks to work out early in the season. So one-sided matches are going to be kind of expected early on. But as you start moving further and further through the season, these matches are going to start getting closer and closer. Like, who knows? Maybe, let's say we got a 3-0 today. I expect the 3-0 to look a lot closer if there was one, and not to be just an absolute run like we saw last week.
Yeah, it's still early going, so there's plenty of time, like you said, for these teams to really get going with each other. Jeff, you've been here since about season 7-ish of CGL. When it gets to this quarter stage, do you start to see a turn in the teams in terms of their team play and such?
Yes, and especially when you have as many new factors as we have introduced here in Season 14. We have the new hero of Juno, we've got a completely, not just new map, and a completely new game type that we've introduced here in Season 14. And so it's gonna be a little rough for everybody right out of the gate. And as people get more acclimated, and as people find kind of where their identity is with new heroes and how they want to play new styles, yeah, we'll definitely see the level of gameplay escalate here. And as far as Juno's concerned, we've seen Juno implemented in dive, we've seen Juno implemented in kind of a brawl rush style compositions over the past couple of weeks. I'm looking at like OWCS Swiss, OWCS group stages that are going on now, where Orisa is now being introduced. So there's a lot of different ways to approach the new hero in particular. And I'm excited to see how these master teams want to handle her.
Yeah, exactly. And you used a word there that I think encapsulates it: escalate. Because we really are escalating now, because we're getting towards that mid-season playoffs. We're only 2 weeks away from the mid-season playoffs, where we're going to see the teams in a bracket-style face-off, where the matches matter even more than just the score, and they'll be able to really make their mark on the season. And that's something that these teams really need to look forward to. So let's have a little look at today's schedule then for Saturday Night Overwatch. So in the EU region, we have Varya up against Semper TEC. We'll break that match a little bit more in a moment. But later tonight in the NA region, we have a very NA named team, the Emerald Eagles, up against the Cogent Endangered. So two animal-based brands there, one very Americana right there with the Eagles. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But with our EU matchup here, both these teams have not been defeated. They have had 3-0 matches across the board, so there's no black spots on either of these teams' call sheets. It's completely clean. That ends tonight. Like, you can't just draw an entire match. Someone's going to have to lose this, so Eagles might get hurt a little bit. And Ray, what are your thoughts on that, with these teams being so equal, and with how the standings are really starting to shape out here in this season and tier?
Yeah, step against each other this week. So the thing you got to keep in mind for whoever loses is you just got to be able to reset, look at what you did wrong, because this midseason tournament is 1 week away, and ensuring that you get to that mark at 3-1 will basically punch your ticket into it. You want to make sure you're in that, because there's indications in the midseason tournament where if you win it, you get an extra win in your column toward the final season playoffs, and then consecutive second and third, they get map points. So it's going to be important to make sure you get there.
Yeah, very important, because all those points will add up in the final moments of it. Jeff, looking at this leaderboard here, obviously it's like you've got basically the 3 tiers of play there. You've got the 2-0s, the 1-1s, and the 0-2s. What would you say to the teams here, like across the board, in terms of looking forward to the mid-season in 2 weeks, and like even more forward to the finals?
I mean, these next 2 weeks are pretty important. So and even if you're, especially if you're one of the 1-1 squads right now, getting a couple wins here and, being able to shoot up through these standings, particularly if you're able to put up a great showing in the midseason tournament, and suddenly you might see like Everfrog, jump up into first place. And like that's a team I've cast a couple times. I could see them actually turning around and surprising some people here. If you're sitting at the top, you've got to protect that lead. And right now, I mean, that puts Varya and Semper both in very interesting spots heading into this match, because, like you say, there's 3 distinct tiers right now, and the undefeated teams are going to get, smaller and smaller as we get closer to that mid-season.
Undefeated, both these teams are spec. My fellow EU analyst, we've only seen stomps on the desk. Is this the day that we might not see a stomp? Do you think this is going to be close then?
I think it definitely could be close. We'll see exactly how close I think it will be when we come to that prediction, but it's worth, mentioning that I still think, even though they are both 2-0, both still haven't dropped a map, I do think there is a firmer favorite. On paper, I'm going to say it probably will end up being Varya, who are a little bit stronger. But like I said, when we get more into the nuts and bolts of it all, we can see exactly what we make of that.
Exactly where it's at. Well, of course, these teams are hoping to have a good showing here, but sometimes it's not always the highest of highs that get showcased sometimes it's the lowest of lows. So let's have a little sneak peek at Leg Day and the second episode of Lowlights this season.
Some might argue that makes it the perfect name. No! Oh, the nade was going to be so big, but unfortunately you have been cucked by a lamppost, so GG.
CGL Lowlights are back.
What is this? Well, all they've created is a little pedestal that says, new victim just arrived. Hey, wait, that's... Why did Velucio try and face tank this? And then that shield bash into it. I'm here to help. They're just so small. They're just too small, you know?
Every week on the CGL channel, be sure to check out Lowlights.
I think the last thing you want to hear as a CGL player is the laugh of Leg Day before they break down and slow down the play that you had just had. But there's plenty of sounds around in Overwatch, which of course is going to bring us to tonight's game. And Jeff, you're going to be running this one, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 segue, by the way, Gio. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. Yes. So we got a little game here to kind of just to keep y'all entertained here for the next few minutes. It's gonna be Name That Sound. I'm gonna give you a couple of sounds. There are actually 7 in total from inside Overwatch, and I need y'all to guess what ability that you are hearing. So I don't know, however you want to write this down. This isn't like a buzz in first thing. This is, I recommend just add a text layer to your camera in OBS, and then just type in whatever you think the sound is. It's the easiest way to do it. It'll show up on your camera. And you get a point for each one. There is a theme. You can guess the theme at any time, and you will get an additional point to the first person to guess the theme. So 2 people guess the theme in the same round, you both get the point.
Okay.
All right. Is it clear enough? Clear enough?
Yes, I'm nervous, but let's get it.
Everybody got a text or a way to show me some answers? All right.
There we go, right in the forehead.
Right on the forehead. Okay. Hit me. Let's get our first sound. What ability is that?
So can it be an ultimate or is it only abilities?
I consider an ultimate is an ability.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay.
Ability and completes all like cooldowns and ultimates. They're all abilities for the characters in my definition. Oh, a bunch of casters and y'all don't know the name of the ultimates? I am disappointed. Thank you from somebody. Okay, you're all correct. Okay, you all get the point.
Sorry, it's artillery strike, you guys. Come on.
Bastion. Oh, a bunch of casters.
Literally, the only time I call anything by its actual name is when I'm casting. Whenever I'm actually thinking about the game or whatever, it's something alt. I always forget what Immortality Field is called because I always just call it Lamp.
I mean, that was the devs that actually gave us that one because they used a physical lamp for the original model.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was the devs that actually gave us lamp because they used a real lamp when they were in development. Yeah. Turn your make your stuff smaller there, Spectrion. It's like
boss.
Yeah.
I see like 3 letters on screen. Yeah. All right. We started with an easy one just to get y'all in the groove. Let's go for sound number 2. You can play it one more time if you need to. Lock them in.
I gotta shrink this one.
Find the size of the font spec. There we go.
I'm not the OBS goat, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, you should have seen him week 1.
I like how Ray is in upside down land now.
I don't know how that happened. It's transcendence.
Is that what that spells?
It's just difficult to read that.
That is in fact transcendence.
Oh,
so
wow, okay.
Point for Ray. Yeah, no, not right click, not right click. That is in fact transcendence.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I know. You take the voice lines out, and suddenly it's a little different, right?
Yeah. Oh, that stumped me. That stumped me.
All right. Hey, we got more. There's still plenty of time to catch up. Let's get sound number 3.
One more time, please.
Am I about to find out that I've been saying this the wrong way the whole time?
Correct. Yes, you are.
It's terror as an
No way.
Yes.
Really? Oh,
Is it terraforming?
That makes so much more sense as well, doesn't it? You never saw anything.
It is a little scary, but no, it's in terraforming. Yes, you've all got it right. That is in fact terror
Can I guess the
or
theme?
terror surge.
It always scares me, so it made sense.
Yeah, you know what? That's valid. That's amazing.
I've been exposed for a second week in the row. Oh, no.
I feel like you deserve a point for that one. I don't know, just for making us laugh. That was good.
I'll take it. The sympathy point.
All right, sound number 4. Let's get moving forward.
Well, one more time.
I really think we need to hide your answers before.
I'm,
I can
I'm
see
on
your
my
answers.
own
That means
list.
everybody can see your answers.
Well, I'll do. I know what I'm gonna do. Let's do this.
Molten core.
Okay.
I've got this down. Okay.
I'm
it's
not...
moving a bit.
Hippie's over here ragging on our OBS skills.
they are pretty terrible for me. I can't lie. I'm not even gonna defend myself. Like
I wasn't counting on that. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to highlight your lack of OBS skills. I was trying to highlight your lack of Overwatch knowledge, but you've all got this one right too. So you know what? You've managed to come out on top. You've beaten me again.
I'm
Points
assuming
all
the
around.
theme is ultimates.
What? Don't spoil it. All right, point to Ray. Give an extra point to Ray. He got the theme. That's right. That's right. Your theme is in fact ultimates. It was my fault. I did not clearly spell out the rules. But I guess shouting it out works. You know what? Okay, let's keep it moving. Now that you know the theme, we've got 3 more. Can somebody take the lead away from Ray?
Yes.
Now number 5.
Honestly, you bullying me for saying it, for calling it Bastille earlier has made me call everything by its full name. It feels weird. I've never typed these sentences out before.
It's a good exercise.
All right. So, Spectron, you got an answer up there?
Yep.
All right, let's show it. Oh, you all get points. I should have made these harder for y'all.
Sorry.
All right, so sometimes I worry that they're going to be just unrecognizable, but y'all are good. Y'all are good. Points all around.
I went to type Grav, and I was like, no, Jeff is going to be rude to me.
Oh, valid. All right, let's go for sound. I definitely should have made these harder.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. I wasn't sure of your skill level here.
We're on point.
You've shown me you got some ears. It's not hands, but you got ears.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see those answers. Everybody gonna get a point here? Certainly looks like it. Very good. Everybody gets a point.
Nice.
All right, we're gonna have to make this last one 2 points just to give somebody a chance to tie it up with Ray.
Ray,
So there's
I
at
need you
least
to
some
get this
stakes
wrong,
here.
Ray.
There's gonna be some stakes here.
Please, man.
2 points. Final question. Let's hear sound number 7.
Okay, I think what's going to struggle me the most is spelling this one.
Yeah,
oh,
same.
It's fine.
I know I
Took me a
spelled this
while.
wrong. I know I spelled this wrong.
My spelling sucks too. I will take a half answer, like, a truncated answer on this one. I think you actually spelled it right.
I think I did.
I think you actually spelled it right.
Oh, there you go.
Unfortunately, Ray got it too.
Your R and your I are running away.
Ah. To be fair, he's played this game a few times before. All right, Ray had some experience here. But there you go. Ray with the perfect run here through Name That Sound. Wins it 9 points for Ray. Congratulations.
Very
Congratulations.
Nice. Very
Thank
nice.
you.
All right. Well, thank y'all. Thank you so much. That was Name That Sound here for week 3. I appreciate y'all playing.
Thank you. I wonder how chat did if you're playing along. I hope you were honest about your answers as well there. Well, okay. Well, again, I've lost another one, so I've only got one because I didn't do too well in the first week with Quickfire Yapper. But when we played the language one, I kind of brought it back a little bit. But now I'm on the back foot again, Ray. I'm coming for you next week. If I can make it next week, that is. Anyway, let's bring this one back to our current matchup. So our two teams here, they are undefeated, Varya and Semper TEC. Their sights are set on the mid-season, I almost said premiere, the mid-season playoffs, sorry. But they need to focus on today. So we've had a little chat with them, and we've had some interviews with both teams. So we're going to get a little bit of an understanding of their thought process going into this one, and maybe the thought process as a team as a whole, starting with a interview we had with someone from Varya.
Hello, CGL. Welcome on back. We're here with a lovely interview with the one, the only, the Gaspard. How are you doing today?
I'm really fine. How are you feeling?
I am feeling excellent. Well, I mean, listen, we can just get right on into it with your match today. Really, though, CGL 14, we're in week 3 now. How's the season been going for you?
Well, basically, we won our first game, and the second one, the opposite team just decided to forfeit. So for now, it's running really well.
All right. Hey, listen, you take those wins where you get them. If teams don't want to play you, it just means
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
scary. I mean, with that, being the case right now, right, heading towards the midseason, and potentially even beyond, what are the team's goals right now?
Well, basically, for CGL, just like a group of friends that are doing the tournament with me. So we don't really mind about winning or losing. We're just trying to taking fun for now. But if we win, it's cool, But we don't have specific goals or stuff for now with this team.
I mean, hey, friendship team to see how far it can go. That's definitely some positive
Yeah.
energy. I like that. So I mean, that just kind of goes right into my next question here for this specific match today up against Semper TEC. Was there any specific prep, or do you guys just playing your own game?
We try to have fun first of all, and then try to win with the heroes we like to play. We don't specifically play like the meta camp with like Juno Brig or stuff. Just like what we can play that for sure, but we prefer to play just what we want to play and just see if it's going on.
Alrighty. I mean, hey, listen, when you play it, you can just play what you want and make it work. But with all
Yeah.
that being said, I'll let you go ahead, get ready for your match. Thank you so much for taking your time for this interview, and back to the desk.
Thank you. See ya.
Very chill, but also very confident as well. Seems like they're a team that are kind of like more in it for each other than a lot like the having specific goals, and you know what, that can really take you far. Ray, what were your thoughts there on kind of reflecting on what was said?
It just seems like it's not one of those like boisterous like, oh, we're like, it's not like a cockiness. It was just like just a calm confidence, like, oh, you know, things are going well, we feel good. Like it's nice to see that, but I don't know, I kind of like the calm confidence that speaks to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Spec, did anything stand out to you at all in what they said there?
Almost not really, and that's kind of a good thing. I think that normally the things that are going to stand out crazily in an interview are just going to end up like being exactly what Ray said, being like really cocky or brash, and normally that's what kind of comes back to bite you. If you're just kind of chilling with your mates, that's the best team environment for success, honestly. So pretty confident stuff from Varya.
Yeah,
Jeff, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to go ahead and piggyback right on that, because what stood out to me was, in fact, that it was a friends team. And I think that means a lot. That's your reason for coming together, is to support each other. You're not joining some random team just like, I'm going to be the best whatever role. I mean, but we're going to be the best team. We're going to come together. We're going to have fun. Maybe you're not going to be the best team in your region, but you're going to be the best that you can do and grow and see what happens. We've seen a lot of success from this in recent time. 03 Splash just picked up a team that was formed off of a friends group that came together and decided to play some Face It. And then they're like, hey, we did good. Let's get Romani on this team. Suddenly they're excelling. Some of the best teams I've seen are formed from just a core of friends who just want to play together.
Yeah, and I think when your goal is to play together and just improve together, it kind of removes an ego aspect and maybe makes it easier when you're on the back foot to maybe recover your mentality as well. So I think that is going to be a real core strength of Varya in this match and forward going. Well, let's have a look at what the other team had to say and have a look and see who we saw and heard from for Semper TEC.
Welcome back, more CGL going on here, and I have a lovely interview with Semper TEC here. We have Freg. Freg, how are you doing today?
Hey, it's actually pretty good. The last few matches were pretty successful, so yeah, I'm feeling good.
I mean, hey, that's excellent. So you said that the matches have been pretty successful, so really I got to pick your brain a little bit. What are the team's goals right now, not just for mid-season, but potentially looking to the end of season?
This team doesn't exist for a very long time, so we're just gonna limit ourselves and just try to go as far as possible. And we actually wanna, if we win something, we're just gonna buy a washing machine for our main tank so he can finally live normally. Yeah.
Hey, listen, when you're playing for those stakes, it could definitely add. So, hey, washing machine on the line potentially with a win at the end of the season. That's hype. But I mean, looking forward to just this match in specific here. Did you guys end up doing any specific prep, any comps or anything like that? Or is it just, going with the flow?
Pretty much going with the flow. We scrimmed the last few days pretty intensively, but I think that's pretty much it, yeah.
Alrighty. I mean, is there anybody we should look out for to be like the star player today, or do you think it's just team diff across the board?
You guys be seeing a lot of Venture and Juno for our comps, so keep a look out for that. But besides that, our tank is pretty good. Yeah, and as I said, our Venture can be really cracked.
Alrighty, so make sure we're looking out for that Venture Juno speed boosting around. Well, we're going to go ahead, kick it back to the desk. Thank you so much for taking the time to take this interview, Fred.
You're welcome. Yeah, see ya.
Wow, it seems like both teams are very similar in their kind of confidence in themselves and not being very bragging about it. And I've heard of all sorts of stakes in a tournament before, but never one quite like a washing machine being on the line. That's absolutely amazing, and means if they ever get to the final, it's the battle of the washing machine. So it's really intense. Jeff, what were your thoughts there listening to what Fred had to say?
I mean, getting past the washing machine, which was just amazing. Like we're going to be running that for the rest of the season, right? Anytime we see Semper, now it's just gonna be the battle for the washing machine. But there's the talk of the Venture Juno. Now this is what really piqued my interest. It makes me very curious. I kind of talked about it here at the top of the desk about how there's a lot of different ways to implement Juno, and that we've seen Juno used in various compositions. And combined with the Venture, I'm thinking we may see a very fast ground and pound kind of comp coming out of Semper. You don't usually see the Venture in with, say, like a Diva dive. It seems to be incorporated a little differently. So I'm very curious to see what kind of compositions they roll out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go straight off the back of that because I did have a chance to dig through a couple of their match histories, and yeah, they're playing the Venture pretty much everywhere. This isn't a thing pretty much any other team are doing. They're running it either in like that flex DPS or hit scan spot, so we're either seeing Venture May if you want to play for your Brawl 1 con super hard, but more commonly, it's Druid with an Ashe, so they'll play with the BAP very heavily as well. So they play a very pokey style, just use that ram block to buy time and space, while Venture plays her own cycles, much like a Tracer would in other similar poke compositions, and they kind of try and spam somebody out. This is very risky. Into a Brawl comp, you can find a lot of success, but if you can't use your damage threat to force as much space as you need, if you can't buy that time you need, then you're so vulnerable to pressure. So dive comps could feast against something like this.
I also get choked up anytime I talk about May. It's okay.
Also, before we move on, can we take a moment? Like, if we're getting him a washing machine, is he like hand washing his clothes right now? Like, I need to know.
And in the river with a rack. That's what it is right now. Yeah.
Hitting him with a stone.
In the Danube there with his clothes. Ray, did you have any further thoughts on that interview?
Yeah, just to build off that a little more, even in Collegiate, we're starting to see this Venture May like Ram Brawl where it really predicates a lot on getting a really good May wall to isolate that tank, and then you have so much damage you can just unleash and obliterate the tank from the get-go. But I mean, as Spectrion mentioned, when it comes, that's what you do when it comes to more close quarters map like a Lijiang Tower. But when you start getting to maps where there's a lot more space like Esperanza, that's where you bring out the Ashe if you were going to continue to do the Venture in that case. Because I mean, it's not like super long range like a Widow, but being able to hold that high ground with the space and rain that fire down on the Ashe, it's been very important in this meta.
100%, and with both teams being quite confident in themselves, let's get a full look at those teams, starting with Varya, who we heard from Gaspar there that, you know, they're more of a friend team. They kind of like go with the flow a lot of the way. So we've got Kunizawa and Nexo there as the DPS lineup. Gaspar, you heard from there, is going to be the tank with Fate and Hell there as a supporting lineup. So this will be the Varya team that you'll see here, facing up against Semper TEC, who themselves we heard from Freg, who's going to be running the back line there, and you'll be seeing them in the back. I wonder if Freg will be playing Frog, maybe, perhaps. You never know. What are your guys' thoughts on the overall of this team and what heroes they've put down there?
Well, I mean, in terms of the heroes, obviously those are just personal preference. In terms of players we know, Geo, obviously, I believe this is the British Fate, the Flex support Fate. We know him personally from Epic 40, a very strong player. I think currently competing in OWCS with Gambit, though not finding the most success, unfortunately. So praying for them to do a little bit better in their matchup next week. They've got Matthias So riding the bench as well. That's from the Arena 51 days, if you cast him back even further. The rest of the team, though, super strong. Kunazawa and Nexo all have found a decent amount of success in various tournaments. And again, when we take a look at Semper, while I don't know many of the players specifically, them playing that Juno comp is with the... Oh yeah, there we see it. The Venture, right? This is a super interesting stylistic choice, and as long as maybe this is a curveball towards Varya, that might open up a lot of opportunity for them.
Yeah, you see Entity and Clobber there as the DPS lineup. Already visualizing there that May Venture that we might be seeing. It's going to be Jonanaz on the tank lineup there with Freg, who we heard from, and Ackerman there. Semper, they're a German organization. They've been around for a while, so like there'll be a lot of familiar names here. So we've talked about this comp a lot, and now I'm very hyped and excited to see it. Now that we're seeing it visually here, Jeff, what are your thoughts on this team?
Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting. We've seen the Juicio, the Juicio, I guess works. A little bit, and to not very much success. We've seen it in both NA and EMEA a little bit over the past couple weeks. It feels very greedy. And so I'm curious just to see how they play this out. You don't have a lot of utility to go with it. Like you're very mobile, and you can be hard to lock down as a backline, but you don't have a lot of utility to really support your front line outside of speed. Like you got speed and spades. You've got enough speed to make an F1 car jealous, but do you have the utility to keep your tank alive when it comes to that head-to-head? I mean, I think it's why we might see the Orisa. The Orisa very survivable. Recent buff to Fortify, where you get a little bit more speed there. Previous buff to the Energy Javelin. And Orisa has definitely crept back into the meta and may not need as much utility, but I'm really curious to see how they handle this Juicio, because so far we've seen pretty limited success with that backline.
Yeah, definitely want to agree with that real quick. I mean, we just got a chance to see it, for example, in OWCS, Quick Esports were playing it, and in my opinion, the main issue with the backline is it just dies. There's not that much survivability there. The kind of peel that Brig gives, Lucio just can't do in the same way, at least. And so anything like Winston, Cleave, Tracer, if she's there, the backline is just going to fold really quite quickly, and the lack of healing throughput as well is a huge issue. So I'd hope they don't run out of it. In the games that I watched, they weren't, but if it comes out, then maybe keep your eyes peeled on that.
Well, and when we see Quick playing it, there's no divers on the other side. They were playing against a Ramatra and a Mei and an Ashe or something. Like, there was no dive DPS, no dive tanks. It was the only reason I think we saw Hitori and Quick trying to run out on the Lucio Juno. I think the moment you add a Tracer in the mix, you cannot run that backline anymore.
100%, and we will find out if it's more like a Ferrari or a Vauxhall as we get into this matchup. But we have predicted on this match. It's a very difficult match to predict. Both these teams have such strong strengths each, but we will start with what my dice predicted here, and in a very rare instance, they have predicted a 3-0 towards Semper TEC. Now, I do want to put an asterisk. The dice also drew at one point, so it's a 3-0 with a draw. The dice don't tend to do 3-0s, so I'm curious to see what the fates really mean by that. But let's start to get into some actual real predictions there. Jeff, what have you predicted for this matchup?
I've got 3-1 to Varya here. I think just some recognizable names on the squad. Give them a little bit of an edge. Although, this was before I saw the logos. If we were going on logos alone, I would 100% give it to Semper, because that is the logo of the day right there. But I just... with limited knowledge on this, please don't be mad at me, Semper fans out there. I have limited experience with both of these teams, but from just name recognition alone, what I've seen, I'm going to give the edge to Varya today.
Very good, Spec. What have you predicted then?
I predicted a 3-0 to Varya. I've spoken about the potential pitfalls in that comp being very vulnerable, playing a lot of this BAP Juno kind of stuff. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, and again, with that name recognition that Varya have, with some more players I might recognize, then I think that they probably have a significant advantage here today.
All right. Well, it's starting to go a certain way. Is it going to be me on my lonesome or Ray? Tell me, are you with me or are you with Jeff and Spec?
So, as Spectrion and Joker would say, I am a coward and went with a 3-1 for Varya. I would not commit to the 3-0. I just believe there's going to be a map where they don't play the Lucio Juno because it's not viable on every map, and I feel like they might be able to sneak one away when they're playing like Brig Juno. And even like in the past, you talk about how vulnerable like the Lucio Juno is. I also think the Ana Juno can be very exposed when it comes to different dives. So I feel like if you're not running the Brig Juno, it can be really tough, especially if you're running a dive like a Winston or a Diva.
I'm starting to get scared that this is going to be exactly like last week, where I was the only one predicting for one team. But you know what? I'm going to stay stalwart. I believe Semper can do this. But we still have some predictions to go over that could save me here. Make me not an island alone in the ocean. Let's start with the caster predictions there. Fletch has predicted in the way of Oh, a 3-2. Okay, so a close matchup, a 5-map matchup there, which, you know what, personally I do think is quite likely there, but towards Varya. So Megalas is now my only hope to not be alone in my prediction. What has Megalas predicted? Hey, okay, there we go. Yes, all right. Yes, okay. And another 3-1. So, the desk and the caster is definitely leaning towards Varya, but like we said, like it's a very hard one to predict. So it really could go either way. But this matchup, no matter which way it goes, this is most competitive one that we've seen on SNO in the EU region, because both these teams, well, they're very confident in themselves. They have to know that mid-season's coming up, so every win now is going to be very important, and someone needs to receive their first loss. But let's talk to our casters. Let's see what they have to say about maybe some of the noises they heard earlier, see how well they did, maybe see what they can talk about their predictions. It's In the Fletch, and it's Megalas. Hi, you two.
Hello.
First of all, Fletch, Megalas, welcome. What are your thoughts on this matchup? What are your thoughts on what you've heard us talk about today?
You know, I have one thought, like, that's been in the back of my mind for a few minutes now, and it's that I think I'd like to name this Juno venture composition for Semper, call it the Spin Cycle.
Oh, that's good.
Washing machine, I get it.
Yeah, the washing machine. No, yeah, you know what? I'm with that. You know, I'm behind you 100% there, Fletch.
Listen, Fletch said it while we were sitting here just listening, and it was just the funniest thing.
Yeah, Megalas, what are your thoughts on this matchup and what we've seen?
Y'all are doubting Semper. I'm gonna say it. Like, everybody's immediately on the side of Varya, but like, you know, that same friend energy, Semper's got it on the other side. I feel like there might be a little bit too much reliance on some name power here, but who knows? I don't have a history of being correct that often, but hey, when me and Gio sync up like we did last week, it works out. So who knows?
Valid point. Valid points, Megalas.
100%. And the Semper community is a big community, so I'm sure there'll be some of them in the chat. They'll be cheering their team on as well. Same for Varya there. So this one is really going to be an intense battle, but I'll leave it up to you two to take it away with for us as we see what will be the most competitive matchup we've seen so far on SNO EU this season. Take it away, you two.
All right, let's get it rolling, Megalas. Here for SNO Week 3, it's time. Varya versus Semper TEC. I really am hoping for a good matchup here. You know, both teams you saw sitting at 2-0 have not dropped a map this season. Talked about it left and right. Friendship, very, very apparent on both sides. Hey, let's get this one rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I feel like this is going to be a good match regardless. Shouldn't be a stomp one way or the other here. And who knows? I think actually potentially, you know, knowing that one team wants to pivot towards certain heroes for their compositions, it could be heavily dependent on the map pool for this series. If we can take a quick look at it. We are going to be starting off on Lijiang Tower. This is the control map, right? Everybody knows Lijiang. You're going to run your stuff here. And oddly enough, I think the Venture Juno can work on a variety of these points. You know, you can sort of play it very fast-paced with the dive on Garden, and then also heading into the rest of the maps, you know, play it with the Brawl, get a little bit aggressive like a short-range Junkrat. Can be fun. But, you know, we have the whole series after that, Numbani, Hanaoka. If it keeps going, Caliseo, Watchpoint. There's just so many maps. It's such a variety of different comps that you can play. Some dive, some brawl. It'll be really interesting to see how this ends up panning out for the spin cycle.
Yeah, it's a very, very... I think this is one of the most varied compositions of maps, I guess, that we've seen so far this season. It really is up and down, left and right. I'm really excited. I do think that if they're going to run this Venture Juno composition, Lijiang Tower and Hanaoka are probably where it's going to be at its strongest. But as for now, Varya versus Semper TEC is going to start out here on Lijiang Tower. Our first submap going to be Lijiang Tower Garden. So, I mean, probably the worst of the maps for the the rushy, you know, Juno Venture style. So we are going to see them actually on the Winston here.
Well, you can still play Juno Venture here, right? Like I was talking about. You just kind of play it with the dive, and it becomes super reliant on the speed ring. You're probably going to see Clobber TP everybody out of spawn before heading on over to that Venture. But, you know, that applies to both sides, right? Varya on the other side of things are actually currently starting on a Lucio and a Juno there. Probably going to see... I was going to say potentially Swan's Kiriko, but no, they're actually running out on this double speed. So a lot of mobility for Varya, but their focusing power as a team is not really there. So it's going to be a lot of individual play.
Yeah, Gaspard, very, very low already, has to just escape as Nexo putting in these rockets through the window, trying to find some, you know, longer range poke splash damage. A little bit of peel in there for the backline of Semper TEC. Now the jump comes in onto the Juno, but Gaspard and Kunizawa have found one each and put Varya ahead, and that will be them grabbing this first fight and, you know, assumingly the split.
Yeah, more than likely here, just the pick's going to wrap up. And just again, Varya got to play that the way that their composition wants to. They were able to sort of separate out Semper TEC, not allow a coordinated dive to come through anywhere, and each played this individual game here. So now you're seeing just a little bit of poke here, trying to push the Tracer out, and it will be Johanna's going over to the D.Va now instead of the Winston, so a little bit more of the peel action, probably trying to peel, make sure this Juno can stay alive, but it's really going to be about marking the Farah!
Wow, a great job there to get rid of Nexo, clip the wings of the Farah there, and now Semper TEC have flipped this entire map on their head. They will lose Freg late as well as Ackerman, no supports, but that's fine. They're just going to rotate over the point as it's just the Juno left.
Yeah, hopefully she'll be fine here, right? Juno can't do a lot of damage if uncontested here. The Tracer is still here, so potentially still going.
Yeah, they don't want to give this one up, and Kunizawa is actually able to track down the kill on to Anthony. Nexo is traded out, though, with this minefield in from Gaspard. It's going to be hard for Semper TEC to take this fight. They're just going to have to back up. Clobber rocks back in on that Venture, breaks a lot of those mines, pushes the Wrecking Ball away, not going to get knocked off the map there as the contest still coming through. Hell and Fate both going down. The Kitsune rush for Semper TEC has to be big. This Orbital Ray trying to keep Varya in this fight as the flip is actually going to go over to Semper TEC. Gaspard has rolled through Ackerman. Now, Tectonic Shock in this fight as well as the self-destruct. Gaspard slamming down to get rid of Clobber. Can they do it? The focusing beam onto Gaspard. Not quite able to take down that Wrecking Ball. So low is the health bars of Varya, but the trades continue to roll through. Johannes and Ackerman are able to find one. Nexo goes off the map, and finally Semper can take a breath. Me too.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was just a back and forth fight, and honestly, it would have been amazing for Varya, but that flip comes through 30% to go here for Semper, and that was just time they were building up percentage on the point here. They did have to trade in a lot of those ultimates for it, though, so now, only with this duplicate online here, when you're going against both DPS ults and pretty much everything for Varya, minus that Juno ult, it's going to be a difficult fight for Semper to find their first pick.
Anthony trying to get tracked down, but Johannes and Anthony both are able to find one each to start the fight out. Now, duplicate out from Nexo, put 2 tanks on the field for Varya, trying to build up to this self-destruct, has it ready to go, gonna send it in to the back of that point. The duplicate going to fade away, but the self-destruct also going to get rid of Anthony's, but the focusing beam in the sky is able to get rid of Nexo. Back and forth has been the name of this game so far, and it continues here. Recall out from Kunizawa, who has the pulse bomb ready to go as they're trying to find this backline. The point not quite over. Pulse bomb stuck to the D.Va mech, but no kill there. No keeps the mech in the fight, and even losing Clobber, it should be okay for Semper as they cross 90%.
And Varya, you know, their composition, it pivots on solo play, but they really haven't attempted to try to come in together. It's been a bit of a staggered fight for them this entire time. And so pick after pick has been going Semper's way.
I mean, Nexo tries to come in, gets the contest going for overtime, but loses their life damn near immediately. Freg very, very low, able to escape for a little while, not forever though, as Johannes is able to shove that Lucio into the wall, cannot wall ride away, and after a absolute slobber knocker of a first map, and Nexo just gets late touch, and Yeah, I mean, it'll be Semper TEC taking Garden in very, very wild fashion.
Yeah, and, don't get me wrong, Semper, they absolutely had some amazing pick potential, especially once Johannes went over to that Diva. You're seeing these first picks come out from them time and again, especially able to focus down on this back line. We talked about it on the desk, right? Fate and Hell on Juno Lucio. It's one of those compositions where it gets punished pretty heavily. The Juno is going to be running for their life a lot of the time. So you do need a little bit more of that sustained survivability for your supports. But we will have to see if this could be a different story here now that we're entering the night market. A bit more of a brawl setup for Semper TEC. This is sort of the standard comp that you'd expect to see. Whereas Varya, they're still wanting to operate the dive, but they've just simply switched to add the Brig to the mix to try to help give their Juno that survivability.
All right, here we go. Switches for Semper TEC. We'll see if this is going to help them out. Gaspard slams down, walled off. Can they get out alive? That Ice Beam not going to be quite enough to get rid of the hamster just yet. Kunizawa, you see, chilling out in the corner, going to come in and try to help out with the dive there. The slam comes through. Not quite able to find a target here on that one. Rolling right, just doing Wrecking Ball things. But it will be Clobber that actually finds the kill on the Kunizawa to start the fight. Semper TEC has the first flip here on Night Market, and despite the trade onto Ackerman with Gaspard losing their life, you know what? I'm just going to shut my mouth until, okay, Johannes and Anthony have found one each. Semper TEC, they're good.
Yeah, they're good. They have control of the point, and it's so great, right? This brawl competition, it doesn't have to play outside of the point. The Wrecking Ball has to pretty much go into a very dangerous spot, potentially being trapped by the Mei, time and again, just to try to find any sort of value here. So that's why this brawl is so powerful on the point, as you're seeing.
All right, Kunizawa in the back line, as well as Nexo, you see, trying to find something. Cleanse out there onto Frag, but Gaspard is going to turn Frag into a fine pace on this point. And it was a beautiful dive. All three, both DPS and the tank, jump on the backline and get the job done with that one.
Like I was saying, the brawl is great on the point, but even being off of it in that little back side of it gives opening to the dive to come through, right? You saw the slam followed up with Nexo's sticky bombs. They're just raining in so much damage. Now, going to be a pretty heavy ult invest from either of these squads here, both coming up on a lot of ultimates. I'd probably look for these Junos, though, to potentially be the big playmakers because these orbital rays are just doing so much all the time.
I mean, Clobber just pops out of the ground, takes out Fate, does end up getting traded, and Kunizawa was able to put Semper TEC ahead with that Pulse Bomb. Now the Annihilation out from Johannes. Good for one, probably going to be good for two here if this Orbital Ray keeps healing like it is. It's going to be hard to get rid of the Juno. Pulled back down to Earth. There is a Hell, but Johannes stuck in that backline, not quite able to keep the fight rolling for them. Now, speaking of rolling, there's going to be Gaspard trying to roll through this point. Again, cleanse out on to Frag, and the Kitsune rush in from Ackerman. The team Varya has taken the lead here. Now the duplicate out from Nexo. Blizzard out as well. Not quite going to find a target with it as Nexo just looks to contest.
Yeah, and you're just stalling at this point. It's very crucial that they kill that Echo before a Blizzard could get off. But Semper TEC, actually, both sides really have invested every single ultimate, a complete reset after that fight here with Semper TEC being in control. Some swaps have come through immediately. As soon as the Orisa's in play, Gaspard goes over to the Zarya, just a direct counter here. But, depending on how defensively this is played, this is where you're going to see Clobber get more and more value now that Varya is on a much more grouped up composition.
I mean, Hell just absolutely gets ran down there into the backline, and unfortunately, those bubbles are only so good for so long. I mean, Johannes does end up going down, but Semper TEC are on another level right now.
And you saw it there. Clobber was just shooting drill after drill into a grouped up clump, and Johannes was more than happy to fire off that fusion driver until the damage was dealt to get these picks. So now heading towards what could be final fight here. Semper TEC, they have the positioning, they have the advantage. It's going to be on probably Gaspard with these bubbles to make an opening.
All right, Hell drops in with the torpedoes there. Johannes walking in, spear spin. No fear for this Orisa. Johannes is trying to play around the middle part there in the openings, but with Freg going down, that's a lot of healing gone for Semper as overtime begins, Varya will have the flip right back to their side.
They'll have the flip, and it could not have come through any sooner, right? It absolutely had to happen. Great icicles from Nexo there. And Johannes just ended up using all of those Orisa cooldowns, couldn't zone anymore, so those were able to come through. Now, having to push into this, though, Gaspard already has a pick, and they're coming up on a plethora of ults. I mean, Varya could just push the spawn.
And they will push the spawn here. They're going to not quite be able to find another pick, but now with both teams right at that big threshold, the 90% here, not quite able to find the Venture there. The grab is massive. And unfortunately for Freg, that is not a Transcendence. It does a little bit of healing, but not nearly enough to survive that. Johannes does have the damage boost for a little while, but it's Johannes versus the world. And unfortunately, in most cases, the world will win those. Terra Surge is out, try and find something, does get burned down. Is that going to be enough?
Nope.
No overtime. Varya evens the score.
Yeah, and I mean, Varya, they came up on every ult they could ever ask for there, right? Having the Graviton Surge as well as the Blizzard, right? So even though you saw the Orbital Ray come out for Semper, it just wasn't enough healing to survive both of those ultimates stacked on top of each other here. And so it's some good adaptations from Varya, especially with that Zarya being in play, just a hard counter the Orisa. So now it's going to be more about potential counter swaps coming through here as we're heading to the control center. Both teams already hovering the Ramattra. They realize the game. They realize what's going to happen here. But it will be interesting what our DPS end up going with, right? Clobber, we know, is going to sim TP out before going back over to the Venture. So potentially with this May Cash, you have a little bit more range for the side of Varya, and you can't allow Clobber to close that distance. Otherwise, that's where things are going to get messy.
All right, Varya finally going over to this rush composition as they look to try and finish up this map here. Hell, putting out some great feeling as Semper TEC, a beautiful wall there, but a big counter wall as well to keep Semper TEC away from them for the moment. Have to play it safe as Johannes backs up. Doesn't quite have that Nemesis form that you get. Clobber in the back line now trying to find the Juno there, but not quite able to do it. Nexo has fallen as Entity has decided to turn it up. Ice in the veins there as Semper TEC take this first fight.
It's just the May trying to live, the Brig swinging hopelessly against the wall there. But yeah, just really, really massive. Again, Clobber, while not necessarily finding the picks, is finding the damage as well as just being a huge distraction, right? Getting members of Varya to turn for them as they're, digging through on this Venture, then being able to escape to the safety of the underground while the rest of the team cleans up. And I mean, Entity rewarded for almost having a Blizzard already.
95% to that Blizzard has it now. Immediately gonna press that Q button to get it rolling, but Entity falls and nobody freezes. So the quick Blizzard does not pay off. However, there is a trade for Nexo. Neither may in this fight right now. You see Johannes has this Annihilation ready to go. Should they choose to use it, they're going to use all three ultimates that they have ready and waiting. But with the death of Ackerman, that's a significant amount of healing gone. Kunizawa pops the Deadeye, pops Freg with the flashbang, and now it is just Semper TEC playing for percentage.
Yeah, it's just going to be a stall situation here for them. You'll probably see Clobber, already using the Burrow. And to be fair, though, I mean, Semper TEC, they really they had an opportunity to invest there purely because, again, it's just more stall coming through, Freg being the last one to touch, but 73%, nothing to sniff at. But like I was saying, Semper TEC, they're happy to invest those ults because they were being invested on the other side, right? The only advantage right now is that they have the Blizzard and the Annihilation versus Semper TEC, who is just currently supporting that Venture ult here, the Tectonic Shock. So they just have to make sure not to get caught by this freeze. It's going to be step one for Semper.
All right, Blizzard is in from Nexo, and Johannes does end up freezing. But at least it's a quick and dirty fight for them.
Yep, just quick and dirty, just lose really quickly, get into the next one. That being said, though, I mean, Varya's happy to take that, right? Because they still have this Annihilation in tow, as well as they already have their rally back online. They're getting closer and closer to that Juno ult, whereas Semper TEC, they're still lacking wholeheartedly in the ult bank here. They have plenty of percentage, so they shouldn't be panicking just yet, but this could be, that could have been a nasty pick coming through onto the Ramattra, but you'll see the Annihilation here.
Now the rally as well. Gaspard still has the Annihilation should they want it. Now both support ultimates have been invested, but I mean, even though they threw out the Tectonic Shock, now it's Semper TEC who has the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, using both support ults and the Annihilation kind of overkill in that fight here. So Semper TEC, they're more than happy to take that, right? Pretty much just having to worry about this Deadeye coming out from Varya. But, you know, it's going to be about making a little bit of space, right? Because you do need to actually get in to find value with this amplification matrix that you have for your Baptiste here. And it seems like they want to get all the way to point before they even think about investing.
All right, Varya has taken the lead now. Deadeye in from Kunizawa. Can they find a pick with it? The answer is probably going to be no, as per the usual. Now the Annihilation out from Johannes, as well as the Amp Matrix from Ackerman. There will be a trade, but it's Semper TEC who take advantage of the resources, and they've still got them.
And depending on how long Varya takes to get into this fight, it could be disastrous for them. They're pushing into a Blizzard as well as an Orbital Ray while they have no tools of their own. Fate, very smart swap here, going over to the Ana, applying this anti onto somebody like the Ramatra. It could mean the potential of getting this first pick and giving Varya a chance back into this fight when they currently have such a disadvantage.
All right, yep, Blizzard thrown out, and it has cut off 2 players from the backline of Varya. You see the Blizzard now from Nexo, who does go down, but both supports frozen for Semper TEC. Ackerman goes down to the tick damage, but they're able to keep Freg in this fight for just a little bit longer. The trades abound left and right, 2 versus 2 to decide this map potentially. You see that Gaspard is trying to run down Clobber and does end up doing it now. They don't touch!
Varya was there! Varya literally was there!
It.
They were winning the fight, they had the picks, but the slow field made it so the Ramatra couldn't get back onto the point. Beautiful move from Johannes on Semper TEC, because truly, I mean, that was a lost fight. That was potentially Varya flipping the map there, but that slow field being applied exactly when it needed to. You saw the desperation come out from Hell on the Juno, just couldn't make it to the point in time, assuming the Ramatra would touch. And so that's going to give Semper TEC the first map. That was such a close affair, though.
I'll say it. I hope that was just a preview of this series. Straight up. Like, that was, frankly, the best ending that we could have gotten for what that map was, right? I mean, Chaos was the name of the game for that Lijiang Tower map. And, I mean, you can see, based on the stats here, both teams basically played the same. I mean, it was neck and neck right up until the end, and just one crucial mistake there, or one very, very good play. You could look at it too that way, right?
Yeah,
just ends the map in heartbreak.
Yeah, absolutely. But with the stats, we're going to take a look at our Juno side-by-side comparison here. Now, Hell wasn't on it the whole time. There's about a round there where they just weren't, but Freg, you know, in comparison, right, when you're not matching the level of playtime, but you're able to do this much better in the stats, right? I mean, look at that. Only 4 deaths across 10 minutes, being able to match the same level of damage done. It really shows in just the level of Juno play, because how crucial that character is. You know, it relies so much on your team, right? You have to be able to sync up with your team, time those speed rings. If you're wasting them just to try to get yourself out of situations, that's generally the sign of you're just getting too much pressure being thrown at you and things of that nature. And then those orbital rays, every single time it came out, you saw their impact, how massive that ultimate is. I personally think it's probably the most overpowered support ult in the game right now, like to a fault, because you're just getting free healing in that, you're getting a free damage boost. It's just insane what that ult can do.
Yeah, and I mean, they had it right at the end, and it probably would have flipped the map, like you were saying, right? But now, we're headed over to map number 2. It's going to be Numbani, and from what we've seen so far, Varya is very, very willing to run, you know, the dive comps. I frankly think Wrecking Ball is probably the worst pick. Like, on paper, I think that they looked pretty good on the Wrecking Ball there on Lijiang Tower, but I mean, we have also seen for the side of Semper TEC, they have also looked good on the Diva. So I am not like 100% sure which way that these teams are going to go here on Numbani, but I think I don't imagine we see anything but the dives.
Yeah, maybe if we get towards point C, you'll see potential swaps over to the Brawl. But yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so excited about this match right now, because on our first map, a lot of series we see teams are either forcing brawl, they're forcing dive, they're forcing poke, one of those three core compositions, some variant of it. But both teams being able to flex across compositions, across heroes, being able to answer the call of what the other is bringing at them is really, like, it's such a good sign for both of these teams, right? Of just how well that they are going to be able to perform here, especially in this dive matchup. We saw what Johannes was doing on the Diva, being able to, take those flyers out of the sky. But, Varya, they're a very smart team. They adapt. We saw it especially on that first round with the Zarya swap on the Orisa. They probably aren't going to be playing the flyers here as aggressively. They might have an Echo, no Pharah in sight would be my guess, simply to take advantage of Numbani's illustrious high ground in all of that open space. But you could lean into even more some of the hit scan, options, right? You can play the Ash, try to build up towards those bobs, those dynamite damage on clumped up heroes, things of that nature. It just really depends on how flexible and how deep these hero pools really go.
And I mean, we are going to see a little bit of a swap here for Semper TEC. It's going to be Anthony leaving the lineup and Coughlin coming in. So frankly, I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot as we get a look at the lineups getting ready for map number 2. See there, Coughlin coming in there. I'm not 100% sure, what Coughlin does the best. It's not a name that I recognize that well. Having said that, they obviously want to do something different here on Numbani, right? And whether that is having Coughlin run the Tracer instead of Anthony's Echo, or is Coughlin going to be running the hit scan like you were talking about? The Ash, always a very reliable pick here on Numbani. So as we head into the map here very, very soon, Coughlin and the rest of Semper TEC and Varya as well, going to answer our questions as to what they are going to come out on.
Yeah, and those questions are great questions to ask, but like you said, it could just be the difference of what people play with what compositions and things like that. That's sort of the rationale for these swaps, right? At least in the DPS role, it normally is just very dependent on the hero pool as well as the map being played. So now that you know that we're going to be established into a bit more of a dive setup, potentially someone who may feel more comfortable, even though, absolutely was doing fine on the Echo before. But adding that specialist into your mix could make all the difference. Varya, though, we're going to get a better look at them first on the defense here, and this is going to be what I like to call the standard, good defense for Numbani, right? You have the Ash, who's going to be piloting these back high grounds, trying to play a little bit more defensive, but just getting to rain shots off. You have Nexo on the Tracer, being able to pepper and attack the offensive team whenever they want. Normally, you play this with an Ana Brig backline because the two of them together are just so survivable. But Hell opting off of the Brig over to the Juno here does make the Ana a little bit more susceptible to these dives, not having those packets as well as just that Brig shield. It could be a massive difference as Semper TEC, they're looking for a full offensive dive with the Echo Venture and the Winston.
All right, here we go. Map number 2, Numbani. Coughlin piloting that Echo just as Anthony was before. Now Johannes going to jump in. Not going to get affected there by the coach gun, but will get thrown off by the Diva for a moment as the Venture jumps over the gap. Dynamite going to hit that Venture as they come out of the ground. Clobber under a little bit of pressure, able to stay alive. Now the jump comes back in here from Johannes. Can they get rid of the Ash? They can. Clobber with the drill dash there gets rid of Kunezawa, and even though Johannes goes down here, there's still a numbers advantage here for TEC. Recall force out of Nexo, and Varya just going to play it safe and wait.
Yeah, wait, recontest at the last second. There's no Winston. You're going to send that Diva in exactly as you have. And now it's nobody being able to apply pressure to this Ana could be massive.
Nexo going down is big, and Coughlin does get slept, but Clobber able to get rid of the mech and Gaspard's pilot Diva form as Semper TEC showing off their synergy right now.
Listen, this synergy is unmatched for a reason, as well as Coughlin on the Echo being able to, like I was worried about, nobody was going to be able to apply pressure to Fate up there, but just being able to quickly pop up, get some stickies, as well as that focusing bead to remove Fate from the equation. And it's just absolutely massive because, again, you're starting to see a little bit of the weakness here when you're running the Ana Juno. Not having that brig makes these dives that much harder and makes your Ana have to position just in a very weird and uncomfortable way to provide reliable healing.
Okay, so, I mean, the Venture able to just dash away. Yeah, that extra shield health, very, very strong for just using the ability to know the nano boost onto Gaspard. Gonna try and find something, but I mean, they're just running away. Nexo does help to clean up that kill on the Coughlin, though. So it will be a pretty, you know, an okay investment, I suppose, on to Gaspard. A nice little anti there on the Clobber, forces the Venture back. Gonna take down the Venture as well with those sticky grenades as Nexo, as Semper TEC just gonna try to escape here.
They're not being allowed to escape, which is super important. Varya playing their aggression beautifully here, but, you know, the Winston is able to live. There is no extra pick coming through here. Now, looking towards this next fight, you're going to see, again, a pretty heavy ult invest both sides. Semper TEC having every ultimate in the bank here to work with, and they actually already started out with their Orbital Ray.
Yeah, Orbital Ray out immediately, and they just explode Johannes as they push them back even further into their own, past their own spawn, frankly. Self-destruct, get back in mech for Gasparo, but it's not going to be enough for Semper TEC now. The Venture going to come in and pop out of that ground. The Kitsune rush from Ackerman. Oh, I mean, Clobber, there's a reason that Clobber has piloted this Venture so confidently so far this season, and they're showing it off right now. Come back swinging.
And I mean, it's so crazy, right? Because there's, you know, we saw it from Clobber's POV. They really had no clue that Ana was up there, as Clobber's actually going to go down, as there's just some cleanup in this fight. But just, again, not having any idea the Ana's up there, but still the coordination of the team saying, hey, listen, you can jump up there, you can get it with once you come out of the ground, and just having that is so reliable here. Varya now making some swaps. They're over to the brig, you know, to have a little bit of defense themselves. No Ana in play, but also an Orisa here, potentially trying to punish some of these dives, land a spear or two, maybe slow down this aggression from Semper TEC. Or TEC.
See them on the high ground for a little while. Gaspard goes over to the Orisa. A little more bunkery now. Hopefully they hope to tank a little more of this dive, but Kunizawa has started off of this next fight with a great early pick on to Coughlin. Winston going to dive in, and Kunizawa is the victim. I mean, Johannes just jumps in and kills 3 basically alone.
Yeah, that's the thing about Winston. You like, primal rages are very clearly telegraphed, right? When a Winston is far beyond their line of sight of their healers, just completely in enemy territory like that, it should be known that there's a primal rage about to come out, and somehow it still catches Varya off guard. And now they're rounding the final corner. They have an orbital ray to play inside of. I mean, this could be the fight for Semper to take the map.
Nexo goes over to the Winston, but Johannes, of course, has found fate. There is a trade here as Nexo builds up to that primal rage. Nothing on the side of Johannes this time. Gonna juggle the Venture and take them out before fading out of that dupe. But finally, Varya, for the first time, it feels like, can take a real breath.
Yeah, they can take a breath, and you saw it there, right? The duplicate from Nexo was able to sort of, while you didn't see the kill come through onto either support, just zoning them back, putting the rest of the team in a position where they could not be healed was all you needed to do there, and Nexo executed that flawlessly here. Now building up to some ultimates of their own that try to get back into this ult bank fight that they know is coming up. All teams have the orbital ray, and it'll be Fred going first.
All right, both teams use their orbital rays, but Clobber has found the first pick onto Fate in that backline. Ackerman throwing out these kunai left and right. It is a 2-for-2 trade. Both tanks still here fighting a 3 versus 3. Ackerman gets the cleanse off. No damage seen from that Terra Surge. Now, I mean, it's just, this is the same story as map number 1. Now, the rally out here from Fate, returning from spawn, gonna stun up Johannes, will get pummeled down, but Johannes is very, very low, and Varya will be able to stand tall.
Stand tall for the moment, but, I mean, yeah, they're already back in.
I think!
Coughlin!
I mean, they're just you can't stand tall if you keep having your knees taken out from behind you. Like, Coughlin just comes in and kills 2 for free. Tectonic Surge out from Clobber, as is the duplicate from Coughlin. They get nothing with the Tectonic Surge, but they have an Immortality Field in from Ackerman. Hell, throwing it back near that pit. Not quite going to be able to get killed there. but will stay in this fight. Nexo goes down. There will be a trade of echoes. Bob enters the fray here, putting some damage out, gets shielded off for the moment, but Varya has been able, this time, surely, right, push them back for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was far closer than it should have been here. And Semper is just going to be waiting now to get the full re-engage with the rest of their team. But already you're seeing Clobber, like, look how aggressive the Venture is playing in just no fear.
Orbital Ray as well as the Annihilation, but Clobber has been found. They're trying to get rid of Gaspard, and Will, the Annihilation is good. 45 seconds now for Semper TEC. Johannes has found 2 with the Annihilation, but the trades, as the story of the match has been the whole time, Semper TEC's trades are not enough because of the spawn advantage.
Yeah, it's so brutal when you're on this last point of hybrid maps. It's just the defenders are a little bit too close for comfort. That being said, you're heading towards final fight. Only 18 seconds on the clock here. The only ultimate available is Ackerman with this amplification matrix. This is going to create a lot of space. Could force Gaspard to use some of those crucial survivability, util abilities for the Orisa here. And forcing those out early could be just detrimental.
Well, there's the M Matrix Kunizawa.
They
Little
don't
touch!
Mate,
Give me
What's
the
going
graphic, hippie!
I mean, it's not a C9. It's not. No, hang on.
Clobber was in the back line!
It's not. Okay, so, but you have to keep in mind.
You
have to keep in mind the legal definition of a C9 is that they touch and then they get off and do not retouch when they can.
No,
there was no touch made initially.
There was an opportunity to touch.
Yeah, no,
they
there was
had
plenty.
The opportunity.
Okay,
that is a C9 in my heart of hearts.
To be fair, playing devil's advocate here, the Orisa zoned out Johannes. Johannes probably called that they had the touch, that they had it figured out, but just being zoned back by the Orisa while Clobber was already mentally invested on going in, already coming out of the ground. You know, that's not something you can really flick around unless you have that drill dash ability. So, you know, they got it plenty far. It still basically has to get to the end of the map for Varya to take this map. Our defense, they're going to be starting on the Diva. It's going to be a Kiriko with the Juno here. So some survivability. The Juno could be a hard focus target here, something to worry about. Meanwhile, Varya, they're going to play very standard, but not really standard, because instead of operating, an on a break or anything like that, they're going to stick to their break Juno, trying to apply some pressure, potentially to Clobber, who's been diving them time and again. That's why you want to run this break to try to make yourself a little bit more survivable.
All right, here we go. Varya's attack. The Diva mirror here. We'll see which one will get the better of this one. As Gaspard from the opposite high ground looking for something. They're going to jump on, and the counter dive from Johannes is immediate. Trying to keep Gaspard off of that back line. These DMs being so annoying for both of them as the dive going to come through. But Johannes is just on top of the peel. They're going to give up a tick here. It's not going to be the end of the world just yet. Nexo getting chased down in the backline. Johannes good for one. Coughlin has to use the recall in the face of Gaspard. Fate from the low ground trying to keep this fight rolling for them. But Clobber going to pop out of the ground and blow Kunizawa into next week, as Semper TEC are going to hold on with the two-man advantage.
They're holding on barely, but they are definitely going to be able to hold on here. And again, you're seeing just how difficult it is for the Brig, right? You can't necessarily peek out, give away your location, otherwise you're going to be target number one here. As Varya now switching up their offensive plans a little bit. They have a Pharah in play, knowing that there's no Echo, I guess, but Johannes can still definitely mark on this Diva. And now Kunizawa over to the Sombra here. I don't know who you're probably looking to play defensively here. Potentially just sit on top of your supports, wait for the Venture to come in, and then look for the hack that way. But, I mean, playing offensive Sombra here, it feels a little bit risky because there's not that much follow-up from the rest of your team.
I mean, they're going to get aggressive here, but they see that all four players are stacked up on the left high ground. The dive going to come through onto the Venture. Unfortunately, Clobber is wise to the play. Goes immediately into the dirt. Gaspard pushed back off with that drill dash. Very, very low is this mech. Has the self-destruct. Should they lose it to begin with? get right back in. But the attack was warded off. The hack onto Clobber can't get in there. There is the attacking the Sombra that they wanted. And now Varya has found their 2 picks, and that will be enough for them to break the line.
Yeah, I mean, they're just waiting for that opportunity to come through. Courtesy of the Sombra is all they needed there. And then, just again, it really is currently all on Johanna's with how this team comp is built to be the one to mark Nexo on the Pharah, not allow this rocket damage to come through, because, you know, Nexo doesn't even have to necessarily get the picks. Those are just massive damage rockets that are going to be shot time and again, and all they have to do is make contact with one squishy, and all of a sudden the D.Va can be there to follow up on that damage. So, as we're pushing into point B now, plenty of ults for both sides here, but I'm probably going to be looking towards Fate in the timing of this rally to see just how much armor can be provided to the rest of the team and just helping them sort of get this payload moving.
Alright, Nexo building up pretty close to this barrage as well. Now Nexo under pressure, but the hack comes through to defend the Pharah, so nothing going there. But, I mean, gets dropped right in the back line of Varya, and Johannes takes advantage of the opportunity and continues to push that advantage. Finds one, continues to go through, jumps up onto the high ground. Peel good there from Gaspard, but now Semper TEC realized that they're so close to the spawn, they're just going to back off.
Yeah, just backing off for the time being. They're close to an EMP. They're probably going to be able to combo it with the barrage, but already a self-destruct out means Gaspard has to hide.
Yeah, they're going to avoid it, but Hell is so low. Clobber pops out of the ground, probably not even expecting Hell back there, but they'll be able to get rid of Nexo and Hell, and Semper TEC gonna continue to hold this ground.
And this is just such a brutal spawn hole that's currently coming through here. I mean, they're stuffing the doors perfectly. They're not giving the angles that Varya wants to work with. So Kunazawa really is going to have to be the initiator now. Sneak out the back, find position with this EMP, and really make the value be seen, but I don't know if they know Clobber's behind them again.
Well, they do now, assuredly, after Clobber shoots off a few of those smart bullets. As Ackerman, the first to fall, Tectonic Shock out, gonna find one. There is the trade. Clobber under a lot of pressure, has to get under the ground, but can't quite do it. 2-4-2 here, no hack for Kunizawa onto this D.Va, and I mean, this is just the story of our lives right now. 3 for 3 in Semper TEC. They're just gonna opt to back off.
Yeah, they still have plenty of time here on point B. They not necessarily survived, but they were able to weather the storm of the EMP barrage combo here. They did invest pretty much all of their tools into it, though, so now Varya does have a distinct advantage heading into this next one with Orbital Ray, as well as Gaspard can get aggressive, knowing that self-destruct is in the wings. But Fate's so incredibly low.
Fate staying in the fight, a little bit of extra healing in from that Orbital Ray. Can they get this D.Va out of mech? Johannes, just absolutely swinging that mouse across the desk. Not quite able to get out of there alive. And there will be a touch from Coughlin as well as Clobber, but both are going to be warded off as Varya gonna cap out B.
They cap out B and are able to keep it going here using that Orbital Ray to full effectiveness here. But, you know, the Sombra Pharah, it's going to continue to be harder here once those ultimates come back online, right? The EMP Barrage are both powerful, but it is just going to be difficult here on point C simply because there's less flank angles to worry about, there's less ways to get in, and Coughlin on the Tracer, you're seeing how annoying they can be. That's not really something you can send your DPS after.
Alright, I mean, they're trying to get rid of Nexo, and they do. The Orbital Ray from Semper TEC good enough to keep them in this fight, and they'll push Varya right back into their spawns.
Back into the spawns, but at this point you cannot attempt to spawn hold in a similar fashion, right? It's just too far away, the positioning would be far too awkward, and the team can sort of pass you, end up flipping maps on, you know, on your plans here. But now you're seeing this chase down try to come on to Clobber, and it's not really going to work out, right? This Venture has too many abilities in order to help escape, especially from something like D.Va, who only has the 3-second booster.
Coughlin looking for a pulse bomb in the back line. Gonna jump onto this Juno, but not quite gonna be able to find it just yet. Now Pulse Bomb out, but onto the Shield of Fate. That's not gonna be good enough there. The hack comes out, Ackerman goes down. Self-destruct to get Johannes back into this mech, and the aggression is just way too damn much for Fate and Hell. And it's 2 for 2 here, but because Semper TEC has the spawn advantage, they will not give this up.
I'm sorry, did we all just watch us we had to cut away from it because the fight was happening elsewhere, but there was just the Clubber was just decloaking a Sombra out of Invis to then get the kill. I mean, that's ridiculous here. So now Varya, 45 seconds on the clock here. They have this EMP to work with. They need to be able to chain these fights together, though. It's going to be so crucial, right? They can't overinvest into one fight because they're going to have at least 2 more before they're at that golden box of victory here. So making sure that Hell doesn't also have to use the Orbital Ray when it comes online to combo with this EMP will be massive.
All right. EMP just about ready to go. Could hit both supports, but there's nobody to dive here. Or dive with. Kunezawa at the moment as Gaspard has gone over to the Zarya to try and counter out this D.Va. They know that there's a Tracer in the back line. Do it the Virus just as a prayer. Not quite able to do it. Didn't need the EMP to start it off. We'll throw down the Orbital Ray. EMP is out. Get rid of that Amp Matrix. And Hell, good for 2. They'd remove Johannes's mech there, and the numbers are so heavily in the favor of this Varya squad. 4 meters separates them from completion. Now it's 0. Varya evens the score here on Numbani.
This back and forth, it comes down to the wire overtime, but Varya gets it done with a very unique composition, having that Sombra. And again, the Sombra is purely there not to sort of engage dives or do anything like that. It's purely to counter out Clobber on this Venture, make that Venture pay for these over-aggressive, positions that you're seeing end up coming through here time and again. And, finally being able to put that Venture in their place, put them on notice that, hey, we can counter you, we can beat you out this way. I think that's exactly the breath of fresh air that Varya needed.
Yep. I mean, both these teams, I don't want to say great. It's been messy. This isn't perfection, but I don't expect perfection, frankly. Both these teams, I mean, it's the scoreline is what we expected, right? We expected a really close match here, and now 2 maps in, it's 1-1, right? And you look at these stats, and it's still pretty even. Johannes playing very well, though, for the side of Semper TEC. I mean, I do appreciate the Sombra pick for Kunezawa. It had its moments for sure where it didn't look the best, but it kind of felt like they were ready, even though it's not really a thing that you tend to prepare with, is the D.Va Sombra. It kind of felt like they were still locked in with each other there for the most part up until Gaspard switched over to the Zarya at the end. The EMP was massive. Got rid of the only ultimate that Varya had, or rather Semper TEC had at the very end in that Amp Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's what you want from a Sombra. You don't need a Sombra that's getting, a billion, million, trillion kills, right? You need a Sombra that knows how to take advantage of opportunities given to them. And it felt that Kunezawa was ready for that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely ready. And again, it's about punishing, like, when a team is clearly displaying what Semper has been doing, where they're just playing aggressive, forcing the Juno and the Venture everywhere. It's such an interesting comp, right? As you christened it, the spin cycle, it wants to get in there all the time, right? It wants to sort of pinch you from both sides and just keep the fight going until you're not really sure what's happening and your entire team's dead around you. But the Sombra brings that level of awareness that is absolutely crucial here. That, is exactly what Varya needed here. And being able to display that time and again is beautiful telling for how deep this series can go.
Could not agree more. But for now, before we head over to Hanaoka, we're going to cut it to a short break. And when we come back, we will see Varya versus Semper TEC. Who's going to move to match point in this SNO matchup? So stick around. It'll be a whole lot of fun. All right, welcome back, everybody. Very, very good series we have on our hands. Very back and forth. 1-1 here at Megalast. And I'm happy to say, right, this is the first time this season we've gotten a 1-1 on SNO.
Not
which
only
is fun.
What is this? What is this? What? You know what? Yeah, praise be to Headrammer for a good match. You know what? Sure. This is now a cult. So everybody in CGL chat, make sure that you praise to Headrammer. Good matches and high SR games will come to you if you praise the Headrammer daily. But yeah, because it's not even just the scoreline, right? Like you could say 1-1 and that's its own thing. But on top of that, these maps have been close. Like I'm talking overtime, 99% coming down to the wire. And interestingly enough, both teams have had a little bit of forgetting to touch the point. Just a little bit of that.
Yeah. Chaos. Chaos. That's all. That's what this series boils down to. And I mean, to be honest with you, there's two forms of Overwatch that are always very, very fun to watch, and that is both teams playing at the best of the best, right? Perfect Overwatch. And then there's what we're seeing right now. And it's kind of the opposite, where both teams are playing super, super messy. It's very, very close. Neither team really has a big advantage. Man, it's a lot of fun to watch this kind of gameplay. But now, getting ready to head into map number 3. It's going to be Hanaoka here, Megalas.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, you just talked about chaos. It doesn't get more chaotic than this. You have 5 different points that teams could forget to touch. You have this back and forth that's going to occur with these heavy ult fights that are going to come in time and again here. And I'll be really interested to see what ends up reigning supreme, right? Both these teams, as we've seen across maps, they're willing to play brawl, they're willing to play dive, whatever it comes out to. But really, it's just kind of what they're feeling in the moment here, as we do have another sub-Fletch.
Yeah, Anthony comes back into the lineup here. I don't know what the reason for the substitution was before, because they both played Echo, but maybe they want to have Anthony head back. No, I'm thinking head over to the Mei, because we saw Anthony play Mei there on map number 1 on Lijiang Tower.
Well, yes.
So that's what I'm thinking, is that Anthony's coming back in to play the Mei again, not so much the Echo. Yeah, gonna go over to the Mei in spawn, but yeah, it's gonna be some form of rush here with the Juno backlines, of course, for Semper TEC. But Ackerman has gone missing, I suppose.
Ackerman is missing. But yeah, like you were said, like I feel like last map was for the Echo, but also we saw the Tracer come out for the defense, so that could be the difference. And again, that's sort of just a flexible hero pool thing here. But being where you're now officially locking yourselves into more of a brawl setup, as Anthony's hero pool is indicating with the Mei, it does tell some things, and it gives Varya sort of this back and forth opportunity, right? As you're already seeing, or at least we saw for a moment before Ackerman decided to go MIA, Varya in the spawn room is currently hovering the Orisa, probably realizing, hey, there's going to be a Ramattra on the other side trying to brawl us. We want that survivability. We want those cooldowns. And so far, so the really hard Orisa counter has come out from the side of Varya, where they've gone over to that Zarya. Zarya, I just realized rhyme. That's pretty neat. But, it'll be interesting to see if Semper wants to adapt, or if they're just going to be able to sort of brute force things with the Ramattra, building Annihilation, and things of that nature. But only time can tell.
All right. Yep. Ackerman has returned as we head into the map here very, very soon. Going over to that brig. Gonna, just fight to protect Freg here. And on the other side, they're getting really, really greedy with that backline. Not a whole lot of protection there for either the Juno or the Ana. I assume they're playing for a Nano Blade here. But it's Hanaoka. Oh my god! It doesn't even matter. Nexo has fallen first to Clobber. Some shots being put out from Kunizawa on this Cassidy, trying to figure it out, and another big anti-grenade there from Fate on the other side of the map. Anthony is the trade here, as the point has unlocked. Semper TEC will drop down to that point. Clobber in the dirt, gonna pop out. Johanna's antied up one more time, has to back it up around the corner. This Ana proving to be absolutely annoying to play against.
Yeah, and, it comes down to, again, Clobber's going to have to be the one to get over there, apply some pressure, but it'll actually be Clobber having to use that burrow to touch point first here for it flips.
I mean, Fate just absolutely jumped on there by Clobber, popped out, ran the drill through them. Johannes very low, does end up being the trade as Clobber just continues to push the aggression again and again. The spin cycle never stops for Semper TEC until Clobber dies. Unfortunately for Semper TEC, the ultimates have been built up for Varya, and they will be able to use them to push Semper TEC back into their own side of the map.
Yeah, and Gaspar trying to play forward here, not allowing another touch to come through. But that being said, the Orisa already had to back up to point. There is a window here where Semper can touch, and it seems like they're going to go for it.
They will touch, and they're going to use the Orbital Ray. The Annihilation just about... Okay, it's going to be a Dragon Blade, Nano Blade here, and it'll be enough to put Varya ahead here. 3 for Nexo, and point C belongs to them.
Yeah, both support ults and the Nano Blade like you were mentioning here, but I mean, hey, Semper, they're kind of willing to take that trade, right? Now you're coming in with a massive ult advantage as long as you don't have to overcommit to this one, maybe being able to just win it out with a single ultimate. You definitely could snowball some good momentum here, but you know, Varya on the other side of things, they're going to want to keep the pressure up, potentially look for some value with this Terror Surge on the coast.
Clobber jumps in right back into the dirt, gonna pop out to try and defend their team against Gasparo, and the Tectonic Surge now in for Clobber. They do find the pick onto Gaspard, a little bit of damage there onto the Genji as Semper TEC pushes Varya back.
And there's going to be another touch here, surely. Both teams are just waiting for their tanks to get back into the mix here. But yeah, that Tectonic Shock going to be able to buy some time. And now with Johanna's back to the point here, it actually doesn't look like anybody is setting up for touch.
Okay, yeah, they will get it. Nexo hops over to the point there. Now the Terra Surge is out, and it's going to put Varya ahead in this fight. Pulls them together for the Deadeye. Now the Blizzard for... I mean, Gaspard, it's going to be the trades. Time and time again is what we've seen, but Kunizawa comes in, rips some people apart with that pistol, and 11-0. Wow.
Yeah, this Cassidy's been putting in an insane amount of work here. So this point tick is going to go up higher and higher here. Potentially another touch here from Semper. Yeah, it's going to be Clobber in with the Burrow here, but then immediately having to run as both teams get another reset.
All right, now the Orbital Ray and the Nano Boost. Kunizawa, they realize where their carry lies. They're trying to get rid of this Ramatra, but Anthony has dropped the Genji, does end up getting traded. The Annihilation fades away. Kunizawa very low. That flashbang does not confirm the kill here as Clobber built back up to those cooldowns, and I mean, Gaspard caught out in no man's land with that Orbital Ray from above. Can they get rid of Hell before the touch comes through again? They can't, and now there's a Genji here to touch. Okay.
I mean, sure. Killing Hell there is massive here. You see the Genji dash out. Yeah, this will finally be the point going this way. But yeah, back and forth, both these teams are absolutely throwing everything in the kitchen sink into these fights here. It's so crucial. Now heading on into the next one, you're going to see this Deadeye already online here. You got to be careful, again, not just of the Deadeye, but these anti-nades from Fate. They've been massive.
I mean, Anthony just thrown away there with the Spear of Gaspard. Has the Terra Surge ready to go. Wouldn't it be funny if they just jumped into the pit with this Terra Surge? I don't think that's the plan, as, yeah, the rest of Semper TEC. The plan probably wouldn't have been good, but we're just going to rotate around to this main side for Semper TEC. There will be a touch here as Clobber hops in, has the Tectonic Shock ready to go, pushes Nexo into the team there, and it's not going to be a good thing here for Varya. Oh my god! I mean, the speed walking cowboy, good for 4. Can they make it 5? Yes, they can make it 5. Kunizawa. That's an ace.
That's such a lethal combination. I mean, absolutely ridiculous how much value this Terror Surge is finding combined with the Deadeye here. And so now Varya, they're coming up towards another Nanoblade. It's not online just yet. Going to be a very similar situation where both teams are investing heavy. Off the Ramatra now, Johannes has accepted that Orisa is the answer. Orisa is the way. And these spears have been nothing but lethal.
Tectonic Shock in the hands of Clobber, been so good so far. They're all grouped up. Can they get rid of this? On it, they can! Clobber does get traded though, and now the Orbital Ray in from Hell. But what?
you know, things happen sometimes, and that's going to be one of those things that happens here. Clobber theoretically should have a touch, depending on how much pressure Varya can apply here, but there is a Nano Blade for Varya in this fight, so they should be able to actually win this one out, even if there's a touch, and they're going to be able to build momentum. Yeah, there's the Nano Blade already out.
Nano Blade out. They're trying to track down Greg, but it's the torpedoes from hell that confirm that kill. Nexo's Dragon Blade good for one as Ackerman puts a kunai in the skull there, but it won't be enough.
And so now you're really starting to see this venture get punished. Clobber can't go in as aggressively as they want to here. And Varya, you know, they're more than happy to keep playing with this momentum-based composition they have, right? They can just keep cycling these ult combos, throw in the orbital ray when they need to. Oh, and that sleep is beautiful.
Clobber goes down, just absolutely hucked down by the rest of Varya. Now, with this Terra Surge Deadeye combo ready to go one more time, we will see if Varya is going to be able to get another big play. Can Semper TEC stop it this time? We will see. Gaspard under a lot of pressure. Clobber very, very low, but the body block there from Johannes is great, who has a Terra Surge of their own. Playing the cover there, Entity goes down, as does Clobber, and it looks like they're going to be able to grab at least their first tick here.
Yeah, depending on the respawns, depending on the touch situation here, they do, because of how this last point works, it is just going to be a close situation. They do get that tick, that's 4th point, so now only 1 point separating Varya from taking the map and taking the lead in the series, but they do have a lot to work through to try to get it.
Alright, Nano Boost ready to go for the side of Varya, for whoever they want it for. No Nano Blade in the sheath right now. Now the orbital ray in from hell. Fred could also throw one out. Does. Clobber gets traded out. Kunizawa for Clobber. Another big anti-grenade from the side of Fate. Now the Nano Boost onto Nexo. Blizzard is out and Gaspard freezes up, and there will be a capture here. Now the Dragon Blade comes out, because why the hell not, right? The point gonna get captured. Nexo does find 2, but it's too little too late.
That might be a blade. Like, I understand you built it up with the Nano and you just kind of wanted to go in, but you really were alone there, Nexo, so I don't know about that blade. You're gonna definitely want that one back. The only ultimate for either squad now is going to be Clobber having the Tectonic Shock, and it could be deadly here, especially now that everybody's playing these grounded, grouped up targets. Again, it's going to be about Clobber being able to get in and play these aggressive off angles like they have been, but so far, it seems like Varya's been up to the task of zoning
Ackerman
them.
got slept! Ackerman got slept on the far side there, followed up by Nexo. Now the Tectonic Shock needs to be colossal here from Clobber. Can they find anything with it? Now, Tectonic Shock down. One shot out, no damage taken. Fate turned it to pace there from the Terra Surge of Johannes. Johannes does end up going down, and now it is a 2 versus 2. A Genji and a Kiriko. It will be the Genji getting the better of that fight, but the trades, of course, it's the trades. Here, Nexo coming alive late. 45 HP, needs to stay alive. Kunizawa just as low.
And it's just going to be a run, a disengage here as another. They'll have to live to fight another day. But this Terra Surge Deadeye combo, it's online, and Semper TEC has nothing to stop it unless NT can have a well-timed Maywall.
All right. It needs to be big because that ultimate advantage is growing and growing and growing for Varya. Nexo very close to the Dragon Blade, 90%. Johannes slept, woken up immediately. Fate does end up going down, so there is not going to be a Nano Boost. The Gaspard Tectonic Shock goes away, and it's 2 kills there. It is 3 versus 2, I believe, on that point right now. Kunizawa stuck in the backline in a 1v1 with Johannes, who has a not enough, I guess. Not enough of anything, as Gaspard is able to come in for the rescue with the kill onto Johannes, who will touch the... there will be a touch. The Kiriko gonna throw out that Kitsune Rush, but immediately dispatched as Varya wins out on Hanaoka 5-1.
Yeah, Varya's composition was built almost perfectly for the Clash game mode. It's so momentum-based. Having 2 separate ult combos that could guarantee win fights time and again so consistently, that's exactly what this mode calls for, right? To help you keep momentum, keep coming back into these fights where they can get a little bit long, they can get a little bit chaotic. And so Varya, just again, being able to clean up with it time and again, leaving Semper TEC a little bit,
flustered, right? They weren't able to come up with an answers. They don't have the adaptability needed to sort of come up with anything. So now Semper finds themselves on the back foot here, on the edge of losing this match. And, meanwhile, smooth skies for Varya.
Yeah, I mean, you can see based off of the stats here, this is the first time that a map has really been one-sided out of the three, right? And I think it has a lot to do with Clobber just isn't allowed to do what they want to anymore on that venture. It is very, very important for those first two maps, as close as they were, that the venture was getting just infinite value for holding W. It doesn't really help that Anthony kind of got jumped on a bunch. But, I mean, I think that this is just a case of Varya is adapting over time to the unique playstyle of Semper TEC. And now as we get a look at really the standout for this map number 3, Kunezawa, absolutely electric on the Cassidy, more than I want to say 3 times, got 2, 3, 4 people in a fight. Just absolutely bonkers how this guy played.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous here. Just the level of damage that Cassidy was doing, it was in such a crazy impact, right? And just being able to do that time and again, as well as, having that flashbang online to punish these overaggressions, punish the extensions that a lot of members on the side of Semper were making. I mean, it just really helped in sort of reining in that chaos and just sort of being able to direct it, as well as, I mean, we saw it anytime the cam went on, those crispy headshots can remove people from the fight before they can even have a chance to react here. So, yeah, like I was saying, Varya right now, they're looking strong. And it's going to require a solid bounce back from Semper to try to force the game back into, their play style to try to get this next map under their belt.
And speaking of that next map, of course, we're still in the regular season, so we know where it's going to be, and it's going to be Colosseo here. And I mean, if there's ever a chance for this venture to get those great flanks rolling that we've seen Clobber basically run the lobby on for the first couple of maps, it's Colosseo, right? There's a lot of avenues to get around behind your enemy on Colosseo. So if Semper TEC want to keep themselves in this series, I genuinely believe it has to be off the back of Clobber not trading every single time they get a chance to find a kill.
Yeah, it has to be just flat out kills here, right? But I mean, even if you're not able to flank on Venture, right? If you're so hard committed to playing the Venture, which they clearly are, they've been talking about it this entire match long, even in the interviews. When you're hard committed to it, maybe you just have to adapt how you're playing Venture, right? Play it as more of a front line instead of, going in with these burrows in a bit of an alone position where nobody can really peel to help you. Maybe try to play with your tank a little bit more. Try to apply that pressure to the front line where the rest of the team's being grouped up, right? And if you keep thinking of yourself as a solo agent, you're going to be, found out time and again. Varya, they've proven that they can punish that play style. So it just requires that adaptation in terms of how you're playing.
Yeah, I really do agree with you. I think that Clobber just is so... I mean, the solo agent thing is basically how they've been playing it through these first 3 maps. And, it took a little while for Varya to kind of come to that realization.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, though. For Clobber, you have to adapt because the other team is adapted, right? If the adaptation's not going to come through comp switches, it has to be through playstyle switches, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not easy if you've practiced this composition for one way, the entire time you've been playing it, right? It could be that they've just gone against weaker teams this season that haven't been able to figure out this composition and how to play against it. Now you are. Varya is very, very good. You need to change what you're doing, or rather how you're doing it, if you want to have a chance at staying undefeated.
Yeah, and that chance, I mean, it's going to have to come here because this is, Varya just absolutely pulling up. If we're just looking at our lineups, we're seeing Coughlin come back in here. So this indicates that we're going to play a little bit faster, potentially. It doesn't have to necessarily be a dive look, but this is going to be more of the Echo Tracer style where you're getting in, getting out. And, this will give more threats for Varya to have to look at, right? Because, no offense to NT, but just when you're playing with the rest of your team like the May has to, it leaves Clobber as a solo agent. But if you have two phenomenal DPS, as we've seen, just sort of closing in, there's only so many sleep darts in the world that Fate can load up and land. So it could be just that kind of crucial switch up here. But that being said, we're at least for the time being in the spawn rooms. We're seeing a bit of a brawl look from both teams. Johanna's again starting on the Ramatra, but something as well that we haven't talked about with this matchup, Gaspard on the Orisa is getting such insane levels of value. This tank, just being able to trade out the cooldowns and stuff. I always talk about it. I'm an Orisa lover, and I feel like again and again, patch after patch, these little micro buffs, they're starting to add up in a very big way.
All right, here we go. It's going to be Gaspard staying on the Orisa, and now Johannes over to that Ramatra again as well. So we will see which of these ideas is going to come out on top as we head into Coliseo. Kunizawa on the Ashe, looking for those long-range shots. Finding a little bit of damage is Nexo here, just throwing those shurikens over the top of the wall for a moment. A little bit low there, trying to get found by Clobber, able to escape the Venture for a moment. Not quite, doesn't quite have that range. Ackerman's Immortality Field just, Nexo in the back line just rips through this back line.
Yeah, and you can't allow the Genji to do that ever. Like, that's just the issue so far. This Genji has been running supreme. So now the Orisa's the only one alive.
Oh my god!
Oh, that Pummel comes up big here, so this payload, it's still going to be in the hallway. It's going to be another hallway fight before this will get moving meaningfully one way or the other here, thanks to those Pummels. But yeah, we talked about it. Varya currently Nexo. Genji is on a tear. They're building up towards Nano Blades left, right, and center, and it's just something that you have to, Semper TEC, they have to find a way to adapt. They have to find a way to punish this Genji and stop letting Nexo get all this value.
All right. Not given up much despite losing that fight pretty convincingly early on anyway. So they're pretty happy with that, and they're even happier that Clobber finds a pick and doesn't get traded. Johannes very, very low, able to keep those hands up, gets the healing from Ackerman, stays alive. Gaspard loses their life. Clobber jumps into the back line, pops out of that ground, able to get rid of Kunezawa, and now it's Semper TEC's time to take the lead.
I need to see what HP Johannes was on there, because that Ramatra should have been dead. Eight ways to Sunday. That Ramatra should have been removed from the fight here. But that being said, you're looking forward towards our next engagement. Bolt support ult online for Varya. Temper not too far behind here. But this Nano, is it going to just be a simple Nano Blade? Is that going to be their fight plan? Or do they want to have to try to throw it on Orisa to try to make them more survivable?
Clobber up in that high ground, not able to get away that time. Another anti-grenade thrown out, not going to hit a target now. The orbital ray is out as the trades come through. There is the annihilation from Johannes, who has absolutely phoned it in for this map.
Yeah, absolutely massive. Combining that with the orbital ray, even though you were down Clobber, showing that the rest of this Semper lineup, obviously we talk about Clobber a lot, but everybody else on this lineup is just as good. That being said, though, now Varya is coming into this next fight with all 5 ultimates online, and they just have to make sure they don't overinvest. If they put too much into this fight, that's where Semper gets an advantage.
Touch comes through. Gaspard goes down, but the Nano Blade has been so big thus far, and even with the death of Gaspard, Nexo able to find 2, but the Tectonic Shock from Clobber keeps them in this fight as the point rolls through the checkpoint and continues up the hill.
It's continuing up the hill, but yeah, there has to be the sound of retreat here for both the Juno and the Ramatra. The rest of the team's not there, but everybody else got forward spawns, right? The downside being, again, you traded your ult bank pretty heavily, so Varya coming into this with a massive advantage. The Terra Surge, the Bob, and that Orbital Ray all online. Meanwhile, Semper has nothing to work with. They'll just be raw pick potential if they're going to find a way in this fight.
Right. See Gaspard playing it pretty safe now that orbital ray is in, and it's going to be good to help to take out Clobber. But of course, as always, there is some form of a trade. Coughlin has found 2 on the off angle, does end up getting burnt to a crisp, but of course Frog is able to find a good torpedo there to take down Kunezawa. The rest of Semper TEC will not allow this bot to move too much further, but they'll decide to back off.
I mean, yeah, they had to give up. They gave up their forward spawns here, but they're still in this fight, right? I mean, Varya, despite having this massive advantage, they haven't actually been able to push the bot all that far. And so now it's given Semper TEC all of this time in the world to sort of build their ult bank back up to get back into this next fight, where they know they're still pushing into the Terror Surge and the bomb.
All right, Kunezawa on the off angle themselves one more time. Has the Bob ready to go. Johannes looking very, very aggressive here. Now the Terror Surge in from the Orisa. Gaspard only going to find some damage. Now the Bob good for 2. Johannes tries to keep this fight rolling with the Annihilation. Has to keep the hands up, but unfortunately those hands can only deny the spear for so long. Now deciding to let the Annihilation fade away. But Johannes continues to walk. No sleep here for Fade as Johannes continues to absolutely ravage Varya.
I mean, it's still going. Look at this Ramatra just being able to just be so aggressive. No fear in sight for Johannes right now. Realizing, hey, wait, this Orisa can't actually kill me because my supports are just that good. You've seen the fear removed from Johannes and what a difference it's been for Semper so far as they just keep pushing.
They're going to back off, let their respawns come through. They've gotten the ball far enough for now. The Nano Boost going to go out on it to the Genji. Going to try and find something with these shurikens, but only a little bit of damage is all that it's good for. Nano Boost fades away, and they got nothing for it. Now this Kitsune rush in from Ackerman could be massive. It will force back the forces of Varya. Johannes going to pop the Nemesis form here, finding a bunch of damage. Coughlin does pop the Deadeye, but immediately dispatched by Nexo. Of course there's a trade, because why the hell wouldn't there be? Hell goes down to the torpedoes of Freg, and Semper TEC realize that without Johannes, there's really not going to be much of a chance of winning this fight, so they'll just contest.
Yeah, they're just going to be contesting the bot. And again, we've been in this same hallway, this same sort of corner of the map for about 4 to 5 minutes now, Fletch. So no bot progress has really been made for Varya here, as they now are going to have to push into this one. They have a Terror Surge to combo with this Dragon Blade. Nice way to pull everyone together so those slashes and dashes can really line up. But on the other side of things, Johannes coming up on yet another Annihilation, a good way to turn these fights. Oh, they don't realize Nexo's
chilling
behind.
out in the back line here. Has that blade itching to get it out of the sheath here. What can Nexo pull? I mean, Kunezawa is just going to be able to pull out a kill there onto Freg, but of course, as always, there's a trade. Terror Surge out. Of course, the damage is good enough, but they still have a long way to go.
Yeah, and just the Bob for Kunezawa for them in the next fight. Meanwhile, Semper, they held on to the Annihilation. They have that Tectonic Shock, as well as Freg is getting really close to that Orbital Ray. Tons of tools to work with here. They probably will have a good contention for the side of Semper to stop this touch from coming, or stop this cap of forward spawns to come through.
They forced the cleanse out of Ackerman, which is good. And now the Annihilation in the back line. Johannes, very deep, very dead. There will be a trade for Fate, but Bob is going to keep Varja in this fight more than enough.
Hell coming up with that Orbital Ray exactly when it needed to come through. And Ackerman going down very late. I think that means they're going to be on... They should be getting a respawn now. And there's actually going to be a lot of switches coming through. You see the Tracer as well as the Winston coming out from Semper, trying to apply the dive to get the damage that way.
Alright, Tectonic Shock out from Clobber, gonna try to find something. A little bit of damage into that Venture, and Hell goes down. They did not give up the lead. Clobber continues to put out a bunch of damage here, looking to find the final blows, and unfortunately for Gaspard, those abilities give Clobber overhealth, cannot finish them off as Clobber rips through 3.
Rips through 3, yeah, but I mean, now it's so close. It's going to be one-fight territory for either of these teams to take the lead, and with so little time left in the bank, that could decide the map and the series here. Now forward spawns are about to be taken away, but everybody on the side of Varya did already get them, and now they're going to be able to push and engage with this rally versus the Kitsune Rush on the side of Ackerman. It's going to be a very close fight, depending on who can get back.
I mean, the dive comes in from Clobber and Johannes, and Clobber good for 1. But as always, going to get traded out here. This Kitsune Rush is a nightmare for Hell, who cannot run away. Nexo just as lucky as their teammate, gets caught from a long ways away. And now Semper TEC roll up to this checkpoint. This is looking dire for Varya.
And it's going to come down to what Varya has to invest to win this next fight, right? Because obviously they have to win this, but then they're going to have to win potentially 2, could even be 3 fights, depending on how far this bot ends up getting up the hill in order to take this map back. And if they have to invest everything here, the Terra Surge, the Bob, even the Blade, then it's going to spell disaster for them having to try to take more fights later on.
Nexo jumps in, the Dragon Blade is a pivotal ultimate here, but Fate goes down! They don't have their Brig! Now the Terra Surge out as Coughlin begins to wreak havoc in the backline of Varya! Braga does end up getting popped by the Terra Surge, but the juggle is immaculate from Johannes! They keep them off the point! And we're going to a map number 5 here on Saturday Night Overwatch!
We've been begging for a Giga Banger, and it seems like Semper and Varya have both risen to the challenge here, adapting on top of each other time and again. You know, this map, you know, because we've been talking about the Venture series long, we have to just go ahead and say it. This was 100% the Johanna show right now. I mean, on the Ramatra, on the Winston, just absolutely removing fear from the equation, constantly going in. I mean, look at this stats. You can see it for yourself. 14 final blows for the tank, most limbs in the lobby, most damage on the team, just doing any and everything time and again here. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, also, while we're looking at stats, the passive thing I want to shout out, Ackerman being the only player to get 5 ultimates off in that lobby. I mean, Kitsune Rush, it builds quick, yes, but it just shows what this Kiriko is also doing passively in the backline.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the stats for the rest of the team other than Johannes. I mean, they're pretty even across the board. And I feel like a lot of that is the fact that it was still a messy map. Like, it was not clean. Johannes has the stats that he has because of the messiness of that map, right? There was one fight where, early on, you know, we talked about it a little bit, where Johannes killed 4. Was the last one alive? Johannes killed 4. The last one left alive was Gaspard. Unfortunately, you can't get any meaningful push with just one person on the field. And that was what Johannes brought to that map there. Absolute masterclass. But enough talking about Johannes. We talked about Clobber at the beginning of the map. Said that Clobber needed to phone it in, not die as much. Died a lot, but it was less tradey than it was before.
Yeah, definitely, you know, cleaned up some of those solo engages. There was actually some good follow-up from the rest of the team here. And you're seeing, you know, Kunazawa actually had the better in a few of these stats. You know, obviously they weren't on the same exact hero, but Kunazawa, you have to keep in mind how little peel is actually getting, right? When you have a Genji like Nexo who's getting in aggressive time and again, that's somebody who's going to be demanding a lot of resources. So for Kunazawa to still be putting up these insane performances, these insane stats without that level of peel and support, I mean, it just shows how good they are.
Yeah. And now, for the first time this season on Saturday Night Overwatch, we have a Map 5 Giga Banger, but we're going to take a quick break. Let these teams go get something, get a snack, get some water, go to the bathroom. And when we come back, we will decide which of these teams in the EU PC Open tier will remain undefeated on the season. It's been a great one so far. I don't imagine it stops in map number 5. Stick around. It'll be a great one.
crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
Carpe diem. Carpe diem.
I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall.
All right, everybody, welcome back. One map separates us from completing this series. One of these teams is going to receive their first loss of the season, and both of these teams we failed to mention it earlier. Neither of these teams had dropped a map in either of the first 2 matches that they played this season. So, I mean, this series lived up to expectations and more, for at least for me.
I mean, hey, listen, for me, the only way this series can get better is if we somehow draw on our next map, which drawing on Escort's hard, but listen, if any team could do it, it'd be these two, because right now, they're both playing at the top of their game, right? Adaptation has been the name of the game, not just in terms of switching heroes and counterpicking, but just in terms of play style, right? Being able to sort of up the tempo or change how things are going for them, and both these squads have been adapted to each other beautifully here. But, unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. We have to have our victor here. And unless that really somehow impossible draw happens here on Escort, this will be the last map in the series, Fletch.
Yeah, and I think what put Semper TEC ahead on Colosseo at the very least is that, Clobber didn't really change playstyle. The rest of the team changed playstyle to fit to Clobber. Right, Clobber was still inting as they've done the whole series, right? But now it's going to be really, really hard for that same kind of composition that Semper TEC was able to win Colosseo on to work as well on Watchpoint Gibraltar. The time that we saw a very, very heavy dive map there, all the way back on map number 2 on Numbani, Varya won. It was very, very close, mind you, but right now, I am sitting here thinking, what is Semper TEC going to bring out that will make me feel confident in their full ability to take on Varya in a dive mirror?
And that's going to be the question, right? Especially since we know our last map's watch point, that dive mirror. It's going to be crucial what we end up running out with, right? The only pretty much guarantee we have is that Venger will be continuing, right? Clobber just super confident on it, showing such elegance and poise. But on the other side, Varya, they've been playing the Nanoblade comp, and don't get me wrong, it worked incredibly well for them on Hanaoka. But heading into Colosseo, I mean, we saw it falter. They fell out of sync at some point. The nanos and the blades, they weren't connecting, and then, it ended up having to get pulled in desperation, as well as there's just a lot of, pressure coming out onto that Genji. Nexo really finally feeling, pressured out. It could mean that they might try to switch things up. They might try to think of a different composition here for their dive. But as of right now, I mean, so far, like I said, adaptation's been the thing, and Semper adapting to that Nanoblade comp is been proving dividends for them.
Yeah. I mean, last map was crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of been the story of this whole series. All of these maps, with the exception of Hanaoka, have been insanely close. And even Hanaoka could have gone, a little bit longer if some of those prolonged fights were, went the other way, right? Because we had fights that went for 2-3 minutes at a time. And it very easily could have been Semper TEC taking Hanaoka at some points, right? There were other points where, guys like Kunizawa and Nexo just kind of took over the map. But now, heading into map number 5, you can't rely on the enemy team making all of those mistakes. You have to be the one that has to clean up your own mistakes. And you've only got one more chance to do that, to stay undefeated on the season here on Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Absolutely, and as you saw, no switches. Coughlin's still in here. Obviously, you're going to be playing dive. No real room for a May here on Watchpoint Gibraltar. But it's just going to be super interesting, right? Like we were talking about, which compositions are these teams going to run out on? The defense, obviously, you're going to be able to tell a little bit sooner. And interestingly enough, for the first time in the series, we're actually seeing the Ana break run, right? It's not a Juno in place of something. It's not putting Fate on this weird island situation. It's the full Ana break setup to help survive these dives, potentially giving a little bit of respect to how Semper has been playing, with just how aggressive Johannes and the rest of the team have been able to go in these last few maps. On the other side of things, though, Clobber more than likely shooting a sonar arrow just to gather some information, some intel, if you will, before switching. Going to be a little bit tricky to operate. There's a lot of things that can pressure you down, but if you can sort of time it right, get cooldowns out from Varya, then this Winston can really start going to town.
Right there, finally, Clobber wanted to throw out a couple of those arrows, like you said. He goes over to the Venture now. We see what Semper TEC's ideas are going to consist of. Clobber jumps up to the high ground, gonna pop out against this Diva. Now the dive gonna come through. A nice little boop there from Hell to deny the jump. Gonna throw Clobber down as well. A nice anti there onto Johanna. Gonna grab the Mega Health back down. Not gonna get too aggressive here.
Yeah, and Clobber's just going to be able to push this cart under. Granted, it's watch point involved. This is sort of the strategy, right? The cart doesn't matter until it's on the other side of that hill for defenders. So everybody's just going to be forced to play under here as Kunazawa comes up with the first hit.
Yeah, great job getting rid of Coughlin early. Gasparo, you know, trying to keep control and does not want to let this go across that threshold on the other side of the bridge. The aggression from Clobber going to come out. Wants to jump onto this back line, and not quite going to find that sleep. There is Fade. Gaspard forced back for a little while longer. Can they get rid of the Echo in the sky? The answer for now is no. Nexo on this high ground, trying now to pressure the Kiriko of Semper TEC. Ackerman able to dissuade that for a moment. Oh my god, what a boop from Hell to deny Clobber's burrow ability there. There will be a trade of Clobber for Fate. Hell receives the nano boost to stay in this fight for as long as possible. Now, I mean, you see Gaspard trying to protect their brig, but Johanna's very, very low, has to stay alive.
Yeah, and they'll stay alive for the time being here, so now this cart finally going to get to the top of the hill, and you're seeing more and more position being taken by Semper here. Some heavy ults coming up for both sides, but Fate getting a nice pick.
Yeah, Fate getting that pick there on the Coughlin. Freg answers with the Orbital Ray. Now the rally from Hell. As soon as Nexo falls, the rally will not be enough, it appears, as Clobber pops out, blows Fate into next week, and it will be Semper TEC grabbing this first point.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a heavy invest from Semper having to put the Kitsune Rush and the Orbital Ray onto that, but I think you're more than happy to do that because you trade out the rally, like you said, and just both those ultimates layer over top of each other, right? There's too much damage, it's too fast, there's nothing that the defenders can really do here. So now a little bit of a spaceship hold, already going to be found out by Gaspard, who's accidentally meeting half the enemy team here on the top of the dropship. But again, just it's about contesting the space and trying to get this Diva out.
Is out to get back into the mech. Nexo drops the duplicate over to the Winston as well. You see the dive going to come through to join them on that high ground. Semper TEC promptly dispatches of that. The tectonic shock in, gonna find some damage in, but Clobber so low goes down, and Gaspard is able to get rid of Ackerman. Great job denying that tectonic shock.
Beautiful denial. I mean, that thing was about to get probably every kill you could ever ask for here. And now the defenders have a great position because of exactly where Fate is standing, right? Being able to set your own up on top of the dropship through those little parkour tactics is massive here. And you're seeing it as well. Every single time Johannes wants to go in, it's just a brig flail to the face. You can't dive anywhere if you're Winston. So it seems like those supports are going to be plenty safe up on top of that ship.
No sleep hitting for Fate. Unfortunately, that nade went a little bit wide, and you see the health bars on the side of Varya. Oh my god, they went so low for so long, and finally, Semper TEC gonna break the line, and they're gonna cap out B.
They'll be able to cap it out. Primal Rage invested almost like a victory lap here, but it is just point B. There's still a whole nother point to try to get through here. But yeah, Varya, they're kind of being sent reeling a little bit. They don't, even though they have this defensive healing setup with the Honor Brig, you know, they haven't been able to find the insane value as before, right? These anti-nades are now getting cleansed by Ackerman pretty consistently, and so there's not a lot of follow-up for him. That being said, tons of ultimates for Varya to work with for their defense here. It's just about making sure they can actually pay off.
All right, Clobber pops out, jumps out. The self-destruct is in. Not quite going to find a target there. TP comes through the right time for Ackerman. Now the Orbital Ray in from Freg to push back the Varya defense for a little while longer at the very least. Kunazawa putting in some shots there as Coughlin gets rid of Nexo. A great first pick as the pressure on the backline has been eliminated there for Semper TEC. The nano boost on to Gaspard. Not going to find what they wanted. Pulse Bomb also not quite finding what they wanted, but this time for Coughlin. The Deadeye looking for something. Nothing to find there, though.
Nothing to find, and now it's just going to be a re-engage, right? Nobody on Semper ended up going down, and so now they're going to be able to push into this. They have a Kitsune Rush online here, but Pulse not going to get a kill.
Nexo, 25 HP and a Dream. Now we see a massive Tracer duel. Which one is going to come out on top? Very, very even in the health department. Recall in for Coughlin. The health pack very, very close there, but you see the rest of the fight going on as we watch this Tracer duel continue to rock on. Semper TEC just gonna walk it right in.
Yeah, we were just so focused on the Tracer duel. Clobber was kind of going to town over on the objective with a Tectonic Shock, and that's a resounding, you know, jump back here from Semper, right? And it's such a close series to be able to put up 2 minutes and 25 seconds in the time bank here on Gibraltar. I mean, Varya, they definitely find themselves on the back foot, and it seems like that they've been figured out so far.
Looking excellent is Semper TEC. 2.5 minutes, not a time bank to sneeze at all. Varya, they have a massive hill to climb, and I mean, that speaks for itself. Johannes 11-0, Clobber 10-3, still dying the most on the team, but like, it doesn't matter if by the time Clobber dies, 3 people are already dead, and that's what they needed.
And listen, upside, Gasper does have currently a deadlift going on, 4 out of 7 final blows for the team. So, Gaspard, you can give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back, I guess. But yeah, I mean, so now with the roles being switched, Semper on the defense now, potentially it's going to be a little bit harder for the positioning of the Venture, right? A lot of short range, limited things with that drill, and having to potentially overextend could be a weakness here. As Varya, they're currently in the spawn room, but they don't know what they want to play just yet. Probably going to see Kunizawa take a shot on this Widowmaker before switching to something else. Meanwhile, Fate and Hell are going to be back onto this Juno Kiri on their own. So now really both teams are running Kiri, but nothing to cleanse. It's a interesting setup.
Very close there for Kunizawa, trying to find Coughlin out. Does force the recall. Now walking over to this window, a dive going to come through as this Winston is a bit of a nightmare for the Widowmaker, but Nexo has actually found the first pick, and Varya on their attack have found exactly what they needed, even with Kunizawa going down.
And this is sort of, you know, what you worry about with the Venture, right? It's just such limited range here, so now, you know, with that Widow, finding that one pick, it was all that was necessary or required. And over to the Sombra now. So it is going to be more of this style where you're hacking Clobber whenever they try to come in. So it's going to be on the rest of the squad to sort of come up with the goods.
Johannes, good for Nexo there to start this fight out. The dive comes through, and the rest of Varya trying to play it safe. Sombra stays alive, gets that translocator off. Coughlin forced off of the high ground, but of course, as always, Clobber will never back down. That S key has been removed from their keyboard. So now finally going to jump into the dirt, going to pop out and decide that it's finally going to be time to at least reposition as Gaspard tries to force it.
Oh, and speaking of force things, Johannes is in way too deep, does manage to get back for the healing there when it's needed here. So now looking into this fight, Coughlin's pulse could come up massively here, but Johannes is down.
Johannes cut early by Gaspard, and Coughlin in the backline, good for 1, but that's kind of the story of this series. Fight, win, good for 1.
Only 1 at the end of the day, so now it's just the Tracer attempting a stall maneuver here. The recall is forced, but that being said, the Juno and the Winston are back. Potentially, if Johannes can get up towards this Primal Rage, it seems like that's going to be enough.
Nah, Johannes falls. Cap comes through for Varya, and Semper TEC, they just have to back off.
So now, you know, the momentum completely on the other foot. Varya is the one who's decided to up the tempo even further, right? They're playing fast. They're trying to get these stagger picks even. And so now, trying to find out the Venture.
Clobber very, very low, ends up going down, but popped the Tectonic Shock. Gaspard, less than 10 HP there, as Nexo actually duplicated the Venture and got more with the ultimate than even Clobber could.
A bit of a show-off, if you will. So now, having this EMP engage for the next fight, this could be a very quick point B capture as well. Very mirrored style here in terms of the rate of capture. And there's the EMP.
Out, explodes the backline there of Semper TEC. Sombra of Kunizawa tries to track down this Sombra, will get the kill with the virus, I assume. No, grabs the health pack. And this fight is not near... Okay, so Semper TEC will be able to push their advantage. They have numbers for the moment, but Varya have returned with reinforcements and will be able to hold on.
And the defenders, I was going to say, just do not look this gift horse in the mouth. Just take it and run, as they're now going to be matching these support ults.
Kitsune rush out, as well as Freg's orbital ray. Coughlin from the mega health pack tries to find something, gets the recall off. Fate will be traded. It's a trade of flex supports here as Coughlin is able to track down Kunizawa. Coughlin is absolutely on a tear. Now the orbital ray in from hell to try and keep Varya in this fight, but it will not nearly be enough.
Nowhere near enough.
They want to stay in this fight? Self-destruct is out. The remag comes through. They will not stop. The pulse bomb gets stuck on, and it forces out the Kitsune rush from Ackerman, and surely that's enough to dissuade it, right?
I mean, I'm going to just be perfectly honest. That reeked of desperation from Varya. They almost were begging and pleading to get point B over with because they wanted to go into point C. But now their biggest opponent is going to be the clock, right? It seems like, oh, you know, they still have 2 minutes. They can get more time if they get to point C. But you have to keep in mind, they're already working with less time than Semper had, you know, has in the bank. So it's just going to be about, you know, actually building these ultimates up and winning these fights. But Nexo gone!
Johanna's absolutely on a rip and tear mission right now. Follows up the kill with Clobber, and it's just Gaspard on the point.
You switch to Orisa, you've given up the dive here, and this desperation is starting to reek more and more for Varya here, you know, and you can't unravel at a time like this. This is when the pressure is at its highest. You have to be able to stand to the challenge here. Varya, they need to take a deep breath, compose themselves. They're going into this next fight with a duplicate. Should be able to get close to that EMP as well. If there's follow-up for the EMP, then they should be able to win it off with just that, but it's still going to be a tall task while they set up here.
Pressure hacked up, will not be able to quite get away. The cleanse comes through, 90% here for Kunizawa on this EMB, trying to build it up as soon as possible. 70 HP, a little bit of peel there for their backline. They have the EMP. If they want to use it on Johanna...
That's a C9. I'll say it. I'll say it. Yeah, we get the graphic on that one. Wow. I thought we were done with this. We had 2, but hey, you know, good things come in 3, I guess. So there's the third C9 of the series. In Varya, I mean, hey, they're not going to question it. They invest their EMP in their duplicate, they get point B done, so now they're barreling towards the end of the map here. But Semper TEC has a lot of ultimates heading into this next fight here.
And a man advantage. Clobber able to drop Nexo first, try to get rid of this Kiriko Ackerman from afar. Will get rid of their opposite number, and Semper TEC will push their advantage into the spawn of Varya.
I mean, hey, just continue to push. If it ain't broke, don't fix it here. And being able to do that without any ults for Semper is absolutely massive, because we're now, again, time is going to be the factor here. Having 5 ultimates, as long as Semper doesn't overinvest, they're going to have an ult advantage pretty much for the rest of the map. And it's going to cause Varya to have to play a little bit more mechanically, a little bit more safely as they continue to find their value. And I don't think anyone realizes it, but this Tracer is flanking and ready with a Pulse Bomb.
Pulse Bomb in the hands of Coughlin. Been so good. Hack going to come through onto Coughlin. Gets the recall, but Fate has fallen. Clobber able to get rid of the Kiriko, and if they can win this fight, okay, the Clobber gonna throw out the Tectonic Shock, so that will be an ultimate used here, as well as the Primal Rage, but it will be enough as Clobber gets the kill around the corner.
And to be fair, as bad as that is, that's probably the best situation for Varya, right? Throwing in both DPS ults and the Primal Rage, so now they can evenly match support ults, both having Kitsune and Orbital Ray, but for the slight... Oh, they're already in with the Kitsune!
Yeah, they don't even want to let Varya get to this payload. They will hop onto the payload, though, as Kunizawa is building up to this EMP. The Orbital Ray from Freg. Hell answers with one of their own. This Johanna's trying to find something in the backline alone, but Clobber has fallen. Nobody but Coughlin left to help out with
the kills as we head into overtime. Nexo has the duplicate ready to go, but Coughlin has found 2 in the backline damn near alone. Duplicate out onto the Kiriko, but Coughlin has come in, gotten rid of 3 players in the biggest moment of the map. Semper TEC, get the dub.
I mean, it truly was a back and forth fight. That fight was going to be chaos incarnate, but with the damage boost from the orbital ray, it was enough for Coughlin to come up with the goods there on the Tracer. And again, you know, these teams, they're so unbelievably close to each other. So somebody had to win, but I think this is going to be 2 teams you want to keep your eyes on. But by God, the back and forth, it was so good to watch.
Perfection is not the term I would say, but the most fun I've had this season, hell yes. Oh my God, what a match that was. Semper TEC, their hopes at the washing machine, they stay alive. I mean, they are a team to reckon with, even though they don't conform to the metas, right? I mean, Orisa has become a very, very good option here, as you saw Gaspard go over to it, and they looked pretty good for the most part. But the friendship bond, the practice on this off-meta composition, whether it be with the Winston, the Ramatra, the Diva, whatever you want Johannes to play, they can do it. And the team as a whole can do what they need to do to get their teammate that washing machine.
Yes, indeed, but that's the future of in here and now. We got to look at these difference. And again, all series long, these stats have been similar, but I think the glaring, blinding stat difference here is the almost 20k damage blocked for Johannes versus only about 6k for Gaspard. Those Winston bubbles were coming in clutch time and again. Whereas Gaspard being on the Diva for portions of the map, it just wasn't, you know, hitting the same. That defense matrix can only do so much there. And it just allowed Johannes to continue to play this aggressive game. We saw that tank really start picking it up throughout the series and really make a name for themselves. So just big props to that here. And just, I'm just so happy. Good Overwatch. A good 5-map gigabanger here, especially, this isn't even mid-season yet. We're still in regular season, and these teams are already being able to produce this high quality of a match. It just means that we're going to get better and better.
Yeah, was a lot of fun, but we're not done yet, Megalast. We have an interview coming up with one of the players on the side of Semper TEC. It'll be Freg, the one you interviewed before the match. So we're going to cut it to a short break, and when we come back, we will have Freg on the mic to talk to us about this match. right, welcome back, everybody. We got Freg of Semper TEC here. Freg, how you feeling?
I feel great. Yeah, pretty good.
I mean,
awesome. Okay, so before we actually have any real questions for you, I wanna run something by you that you can take to your team.
Okay.
I'd like to propose a name for y'all's Juno venture composition.
Yeah.
I want to call it the Spin Cycle because y'all's goal is to get a washing machine at the end of the season. I'd like to dub your composition the Spin Cycle.
Yeah, I would be in for that. That's great. Yeah.
All right, now you can ask whatever you want to, Megalas. I'm happy. I'm complete.
Hey, listen, all I'm saying is we get that trending, OWCS, tell them to play Venture Juno. It'll be great. But yeah, I mean, listen, it was a back and forth affair. You guys were absolutely teetering on the edge of it across maps, right? I mean, going through the series, just what were the emotions like, with how close it was?
Yeah, it was, at the beginning, it was really rough. Every fight felt like it's completely chaotic, and just these last two fights, or not two fights, but the end of each fight was super messy. So it was pretty intense, I would say.
I mean, yeah, there definitely was that clear air of intensity, and it was chaotic on both sides, right? Where fights were getting very scrappy, it was becoming very pick dependent, but you still were able to come out victorious. I have to probably specify in though, especially after Hanaoka, because that map was probably the least close of the whole series, right?
Yeah.
You guys find yourselves down at match point. What was there really a rallying call, or was just everybody calm, cool, and collected?
I think like our mental began to break a little bit, but it was, at the end we just tried to outbrawl them. Our comp should have outbrawled them, but it somehow didn't work and we lost a bit of mental. But after that match we collected ourselves again and won.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about the chaos, right? Because all 5 of those maps were pretty messy, to say the least. And now as we approach this mid-season tournament, like, at the very least, I know you're probably going to talk to your team about this later on. Like, what do you have in mind to try and, tighten up the screws that were loose throughout this match moving forward in the season?
I think it was pretty rough that like me and the other support in the backline died pretty often, especially mid-fight or cleanup fight. That was not optimal, I guess. So we have to really work on that and maybe disengage fights a bit better, but overall, I think that are the two things.
I mean, hey, but you're able to, take those lessons back to your team. You're still undefeated, which, unless some random nonsense happens with the standings, means you definitely are being seen in that mid-season madness tournament. And just really, like you said at the start, right? Your goals, it obviously is to win at the end of the day, but just for that mid-season, just what do you think it'll mean to show up as and be regarded as one of the best teams?
I think the pressure will be really high, but we don't have that big of an ego that it would break easily if we lose. So as I said in the interview earlier, just limit test ourselves, what works, what doesn't work, and keep grinding.
All right. Yep. That is the motto. Just keep grinding. Just keep going. And now, Freg, as we bring this interview to a close, is there anybody you want to shout out before you head out?
Yeah. I want to shout out our mascot, Gilbert. It's a frog out of rock because we like frog and rocks.
All right,
You actually just
Gilbert.
hit a rock.
It's
Yeah,
it's a frog
rock. Yeah.
Large man. So thanks, Gilbert, for giving them what they needed to get through, and thank you, Freg, for coming to talk to us in this interview. Congratulations. Go talk to your team. Best of luck in week 4 and into that mid-season tournament.
Right. Thank you. See ya.
All right. So that will do it for us here on the caster side. We're going to send y'all over to the desk here very, very soon. They're going to give you a bit more of a proper shout out to Kunoichi, but Megalas, I know this is a big deal for you. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, I mean, I really would like to leave that to the desk so that way people aren't getting distracted.
Hey, I wanted to give you the choice.
Listen, what I will say is if you are not a fan of Semper TEC after that interview, that game, and everything in between, like the spin cycle, everybody, we need to make the spin cycle happen. Twitch chat, do your thing. Make sure anytime you see Adventure Juno played, let them know that Fletch has dubbed it and christened it as the spin cycle. Please and thank you.
All right. Well, that'll do it for me and Megalas here on this side of SNO. We're going to cut it over to the desk. Thank you all for watching, and the desk will break down that match for us.
Whoa, what a matchup. Finally something that's so competitive, and it was tooth and nail. Jeff, Spec, Ray, I know what we can all agree on is that was an amazing matchup. It was very close and definitely gave us the best performance from teams that we've seen across SNO in this season so far. But yes, well done to Semper TEC for getting it. Varya were so close as well. You play that match 10 times, you get, one team wins 5 times, the other team wins 5 times, because these teams are very close matched, and if we see them again in the mid-season playoffs, it's going to be beautiful. So we'll get your overall thoughts on the entire matchup there. Starting with you, Ray. What were your thoughts there on the overall matchup we saw? We finally got a 5-map game here on SNO.
Yeah. Sorry. I knew this was going to start happening the deeper and deeper we got into the season, and then when you start to get some of those higher echelon teams going at it, and it was really interesting to watch that unfold, the back and forth adjustments these teams kept making to try and match each other. I mean, Spectre was salivating over it during. He's like, "Oh, what a great adaptation here!" It was beautiful, and the teams just seemed like they had a lot of knowledge behind themselves. And okay, on map 1s, the Wrecking Ball, they automatically swap off the Winston and go the Diva, and then they make the adaptation to eventually for the Wrecking Ball comp go Kiri to try and help them out, and it was just really awesome. That stood out to me, was just the constant swapping to try and outwit the other team.
Yeah, salivating. Usually Spec's drooling. Spec, what's your thought there on the match?
Obviously it was a really entertaining match. I thought both teams played to a really high level. I think that the thing that ultimately separated it was general flexibility, because as Ray mentioned, there was plenty of counter swapping. I think we saw when we were on more brawl-based comps, typically Varya were a little bit stronger. It seemed like they had better set plays generally. They had a lot more ideas with how they were setting up their ultimates and how they were going to hit early or late and kind of playing as a team. Semper generally played a bit more standard, in my opinion, which just came to bite them in the balls a little bit. But when they were actually on these kind of more mobile dive compositions, where they don't need to be really funky all the time to catch their opponent off guard, then they just seemed like they had a huge leg up over their opposition. Varya were really struggling there in Gibraltar.
Yeah, Varya did tend to struggle there later in the match, but you're right, I agree with you. When it comes to the brawl fundamentals, you really saw that on Lijiang Control Center really stood out to me for Varya. Jeff, what are your overall thoughts of the match?
If we see these two end up facing off in mid-season, in the mid-season tournament, it could go either way. And I think a lot of this just happened to be because it was a week 3 matchup. We end up with a couple of maps that are kind of Winston favored, particularly with WPG being your decider map. We were going into that thinking, this has got to favor Johannes and Semper TEC. Look at the Winston we've seen. There in Colosseo, we see the Winston come out as an adaptation. It works beautifully. And then you go into the best Winston map in the game. So I think part of this was just a tad bit of luck. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I would love to see these two teams go at it when they can kind of counterpick as far as doing a loser pick system, or where they can kind of choose where they want to take the battleground. I think it would be another 3-2. I don't think it would automatically mean that Varya would win this, but I think it'll be a great matchup.
100%. This is a rematch I want to see, whether it's in the mid-season or not. I want to see these teams face off. And if I could just ask Pro to do me a favor and let's bring up the predictions again. Let's go over what we were thinking before walking into this, because it's not like I want to gloat or anything, but I did have a little bit of a different idea of what might happen here compared to you guys, and actually it worked out. Dice or not, the fates were correct. It wasn't a 3-0, like I wasn't that close, but Semper did get the win. So me and Megalas, me and her, we had the right idea, but. Yeah, overall, despite that, these teams, you have them fight over like different maps. It goes different ways. They had great different styles as well. I mean, we saw the venture. We were speculating on it. We've now seen 5 maps of it. Jeff, what did you think when watching how they played the venture into different maps like Numbani and Gibraltar even?
I thought Clobber did a really good job of keeping a lot of pressure on Fate. I mean, particularly as the fight went on. Sometimes, we heard Fletch talk about during the series, sometimes it looked like Intink. And part of that is just the nature of the hero where, Clobber gets caught out or is not able to find the target they're after and not able to find an escape, and it looks bad. It looks like, well, you just volunteered into a 4v5. But Clobber was doing a really good job throughout the series of keeping a lot of pressure onto that backline. And we saw the results of that, which is the number of deaths Fate had. I don't think that's a slight on Fate. That is a compliment and what a good job Clobber did with the venture, and was even 5 maps in continuing to harass and make it very uncomfortable for Varya to fight sustain and to continue through elongated fights.
Yeah, like kind of like feast or famine. You were feasting on rocks, or there's no rocks around to eat. Spec, what were your thoughts? We saw some unfortunate happenstances with some C9s and such across the matches as well. But mostly, I would say these fights were like big fights as well, like with lots of ults happening. Did any like specific fights happen? Did you see any patterns show up? What were your what's your analysis there on overall how the fights played out?
They were generally well structured. I would say in terms of the layering of the fight plans, generally I thought when it came to the Brawl, it's a bit easier to kind of come up with these really complicated fight plans where you have set responses like 3-4 kind of turns in. But when it comes to single fights where you're just going to both clash into each other and whoever wins in these kind of more decisive fights, I suppose you'd call them, that was where Semper were finding their success. I think on Gibraltar specifically, Jeff mentioned it, I want to circle back to it. The backline of Varya was really struggling because they weren't really able to live long enough. And because they weren't living long enough, then Varya didn't have enough time to get on to these more complicated fight plans that they kind of found their success on. And, I do think that their Anna Briggs specifically maybe wasn't as up to scratch as they maybe would have liked. Because on their Juno break, they looked really, really comfortable. A lot of reasons could be for that. As you were mentioning, Gio, kind of when we were watching, could have been they were tired. I mean, obviously sharing Brigitte duties between the two supports can lead to, a bit of rust on the hero, perhaps. Could just be, inexperience, having not played into that venture we were also talking about earlier. But all of this kind of coalesced into, I think, the backline being a big weakness towards the end.
Yeah, you brought it up there. I always like to bring up, even if you scrim 2 hour blocks, stamina in a main matchup there when it goes 5 maps is something you have to consider, because it's more intensive. You're not playing to learn, you're playing to win at that point. Even if both these teams are more inwards focused and focused on being a group of people improving together, even still that stamina's gonna have a factor on those later matchups. And yeah, I was thinking that maybe Semper seemed to have just a little bit more in the tank there at the end, and they were just a little bit quicker on what they wanted to do. Ray, do you have any thoughts on, because this could have went either way, and if you really think about it, when there's an argument to make, if the C9 didn't happen on Lijiang, it could have been a 3-0 to Varya, if you think about it, and how the maps were laid out, unless I'm mistaken. So what could Varya really do here to change the tide here against Semper?
I do think there was one instance, I forget which map it was. It was on Lijiang Tower, actually, on that control center, where as soon as we all saw it, we all were like, oh, that is way too much of an ult investment into that fight. They had a couple moments like that. There were certain times where it felt like one player was a few seconds ahead of the other players or a few seconds behind. Like, if they just clean that up a little bit, I think things get a lot cleaner in those team fight wins and things go a lot more in their favor.
100%. And when you talk about like going in their favor, at least Varya have the fact that they didn't get clean sweep. They still have those points, and considering the standings overall, that's going to help them as well going forward. But it does mean, I don't know if we have updated standings yet here, but it does mean that if any other of the top teams get a free they have a chance here to like cement themselves at the top. But obviously that's still playing out, so we don't have an updated one yet. But yeah, looking good for Semper. We'll see them in the mid-season for sure, and they've got a lot to work on still. Even though they won, there's like little tweaks here and there that they can go back and watch and still improve. I think both teams kind of mentioned that they're like a little bit newer formed, so there's still a lot for that to do. We can go freeform here as well. Does anyone else have any other thoughts or analysis on the overall match that we saw?
I mean, if I had known about the Gilbert diff, then I probably would have pred for Semper TEC, because the Gilbert diff is real. Like, you know, we like frogs, we like rocks. I mean, I can't argue with that.
100%. There it is. There's the washing machine. The trophy of this season.
That is my thoughts.
Thoughts are washing machine.
And I'm 100% behind Fletch. It's now official as well, because Freg agreed with it. It's the spin cycle. That's their comp.
Yeah.
They play the spin cycle.
But ironically, I do think Jeff's point will shine true with this. I think this matchup would be even more interesting in a loser picks format, where each team gets to go to their own maps, because, you know, it went 1 and then 1-1 and then 2-1 for Varya's. In a situation, I think these teams could easily be going back and forth, and it really could just come down to who picks the final map.
Yeah, Spec,
I'd like to take a... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was going to pick up on the 1-1. Yeah, Spec, you were talking a lot about like the different kind of formats in terms of like creating different angles, more so in Lijiang. I just wanted to like pick your brains and kind of reignite your thought process on that one.
Well, I'm gonna have to send myself back. On Lijiang Tower, I think generally when we were playing this kind of full dive with the Wrecking Ball comp versus the Monkey comp, then it's really easy to set up multiple angles. A lot of the time they were doing this Juno Kiriko style, and because both supports are moderately survivable on their own, you can essentially set up all 5 players as separate angles. They can all be on separate different spots, all shooting in, and for anything that requires even a little bit of team play, it's really hard to go on one without exposing yourself to 4 other targets. So that was something that really impressed me from Varya. When they went over to the kind of more brawly Ramatra style, I think that kind of forces a little bit more grouping out of Varya, but also it makes it even harder to deal with those. So it kind of all coalesced into a lot of really awkward, broken down fights on the objective, which is kind of what Varya would be looking for under a comp like that. But I mean, Lijiang Tower was just so back and forth, so chaotic all the way through.
Yeah, 100%.
I wanted to take a moment and highlight Kunosawa on the other side. I mean, I thought it just had a spectacular performance in the hit scan. I'm thinking back to the Clash map on the Cassidy. I mean, like, that was just insane. Had an ace in one fight. I mean, with the 3K Deadeye. Like, how often do you see a 3K solo Deadeye? Like, there was another 3K Deadeye earlier in the map, comboed with the Terror Surge. Like, we thought that was cool. And then just does the turn the corner and catches all of Semper TEC, just scared and wide-eyed, like doe in headlights. Takes out 3, gets the other 2 picks. I mean, had a fantastic series all around, and I mean, was only really kind of silenced there towards the end. I think Clobber did a good job of that as well. When Fate wasn't being targeted, we saw Clobber over on Kunosawa making sure that they were in a high impact in the fight, but it was because of just how accurate and how deadly they had been throughout the series. So just wanted to take a moment and highlight, I mean, really both Kunosawa and Nexo had a fantastic series. It's a deadly, deadly DPS line, and I want to make sure that they got a little shout out.
100%. I want a slow motion of that high noon coming around the corner and everyone's reaction, because that a 3K high noon is not something you see often, then cleans it sub with the 5k as well, so absolutely great shout out. But from our shout out to then the MVP, there's been a lot of talk. It's a very difficult choice. There's so many good players, and both these teams work so well together. But there's only one person that we're working towards here to get them a washing machine, and it is going to be the tank of Semper. Is going to be Johannes there, who is going to be our MVP. A really good play on Monkey a lot of the time. I saw that. I was very impressed early on with it. You saw on what was it, Lijiang, the final map there, Watchpoint Gibraltar. There we go. My brain kicked in. And as soon as I saw Watchpoint Gibraltar come in, I'm thinking we're going to see the Monkey come out here from Semper, and we saw it. It was very strong. Really, the spear point on the spear. We'll go freeform again. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Johannes there as the tank?
I'd probably say that I definitely agree with you that kind of Monkey did seem to be the strongest pick. Definitely what powered them through a lot of Numbani, and definitely through that Gibraltar. But I think it was a general just lack of making mistakes that's really impressed us here. You know, it wasn't always the craziest set plays that we saw the other side from. It was just consistent frontline play, playing your advantage, trading your cooldowns, and no real overextensions that I can think of off the top of my head. That consistency that made Johannes the MVP candidate for me.
That's what you want from your tank, right? You want a consistent tank that it knows exactly when to when to overextend slightly, I mean, just enough, but when to hold back as well, and ends up with, the fewest deaths in the lobby as we saw in Watchpoint Gibraltar. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more. I mean, it was that's definitely leading the charge, but it's the timing. It's the timing that's so important. I think Joanna's had that on point pretty much all day long.
Yeah, as we're watching that series unfold, I mean, most of the comments we're making is great primal, great jump. And I mean, that's what you kind of want out of your Monkey player, is just knowing that timing, exactly when to go and to isolate those support players, and then how to use that primal effectively to separate and isolate different people on their own and take full advantage of it. So, I mean, like we mentioned, it's not like they had like these crazy 5Ks like we saw on the Cassidy on Clash, but it was just clean.
Yeah, and to think about Watchpoint Gibraltar, they had the least deaths in the lobby as a Winston, being hard focused, and so it just shows that like they have that bubble tool and they're using it really well to distract and dissuade and use that cover. So a really good performance from them, and I think it really stood out to everyone. But again, a very tough call. Like you mentioned, the DPS lineup from the other side, but also Clobber. Clobber was also very much in our minds for MVP because, well, yes, the gameplay did create situations where it did seem like Clobber was maybe dying a little bit too much, but there was also situations like on Gibraltar where the style really worked to their favor and Clobber really stepped out forward. So a lot of different players could have been MVP, but today Johannes that really stepped forward. Playing more time to see more Overwatch though, and since we've now broken the curse of 3-0, we've seen a back and forth match. That might happen on NA later tonight because SNO is not yet over. It's coming to a close here on the EU side of things. NA starting up now. Well, not now, at 21 Eastern, with the Emerald Eagles proudly up against the Cogent Endangered. And that might also be a close match. Might we have gone past the point of the 3-0 SNO to 3-2 SNO? Maybe. But you have that to watch later today. There's also that you can watch right now, not quite on this channel, and Ray, I'll go over to you to talk about that.
Yeah, so going on right this minute, so once we conclude here, make sure you guys go over and check it out. Kunoichi Cosmos, the marginalized gender tournaments that CGL presents via Kunoichi, the partners together. It's very awesome opportunity for a lot of these marginalized genders. They get a chance to compete. It's all levels of play, and I mean, you see a lot of talent in there for sure. And a lot of the times, I like to say this because it's true, the Calling All Heroes teams like to use this as kind of their staging ground, their warm up to really get things clicking, because CGL makes sure they do these Kunoichi events very close to when the next Calling All Heroes events are going to happen. So it's going to be a great watch. Make sure to go check it out.
Rising teams as well often treat this as like their major. It can also even be more important because it is prizeful. So the rising teams as well can be very, very competitive.
Yeah, 100%. And as well, like the broadcast talent. Right now, it's Moneva and Nerdy Broadcasting, and both great talent as well. So you can go over there now. It's Kunichi CGL on Twitch, and you can watch that. They're in the middle of a match right now. It's the Lava Lilies versus KCMX. So you can basically just keep watching CGL Overwatch at Kunichi, and then come back for SNO NA. So there's plenty of content going around. But it's now time to kind of wrap up. We've seen an amazing matchup, finally, like a very competitive match, and it's really ramped up towards the mid-season. Right, we're 2 weeks out from that, and it's going to be mid-season playoffs. We're going to be seeing Semper in it. We might see a rematch of this very match again, because it's going to get even closer. The closer we get to that mid-season, the tougher these teams are going to be playing, and the better the matches will be. But thank you for joining us here, chat. Thank you to Fletch and Megalas for running us through that match. Thank you, Ray, Spec, and Jeff for joining me here on the desk. Thank you to Joe, Rhino, Blizzard, and Hippie in the production. They're the team that actually make us look pretty good here. And thank you to, again, you guys in chat. There's been a lot of support for both teams I've seen across the board, and that is the sort of energy we love to see here in CGL. But for the EU desk, that is us. Don't forget to laugh loud and love yourself, folks. See you in NA.